we are. And I've recorded. I'm starting to record. So.
Okay, are we ready to begin?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome to Design Review Commission meeting, October 6th, 2021. To start the meeting, we'll establish the quorum of the commissioners. And with that, I believe we have all commissioners here tonight, but we'll start with the roll call. So Sam Harding.
Here.
Jude Kirk.
Here.
David Blockus.
Present.
Michael Ma.
Here.
And Frank Bishop. So let the record state all commissioners are present. Next item on the agenda is any public comments on items that are not on the agenda. Guido, do you know if we have any tonight?
I don't believe so, but if people want to comment, they can now. So, but I do not believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give it a second. All right, hearing none, we'll move into the next section, items for consideration and action. First, we'll start with the consent calendar. Tonight, we have one item on the consent calendar, and it's the Design Review Commission minutes of August 4th, 2021. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, would someone like to either make a correction or make a motion in regards to the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and roll call. Sam, agree?
Aye.
Jude?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And Frank. So unanimous, minutes approved. So we move into the discussion for this evening. And Jude, let's see, it's SC 190016, 41 Marvin Avenue. And
Chair Bishop,
kick this off. Yes?
Can I jump in and say I need to recuse myself?
Yes.
Yes, I need to recuse myself due to proximity to the subject site. I will be leaving the meeting
Jude.
now and rejoining you at the end.
Thank you, Jude. So let's proceed here with staff report. So Sean, do you have a staff report on this item for us tonight?
Before we do that, Mr. Chair, I believe there were a couple of, there may be one or two commissioners who, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, weren't here last time, and it would be good to confirm that they've read the minutes and viewed the footage.
No, Jolie mixed.
No, everyone was present at the last meeting. So
all right, I apologize.
I assume that's fine. I assume we can move forward without that tonight. But if yes, can we do that?
That's fine. If everyone was here, I'm mistaken. I apologize. Thank you. Go ahead.
Our city attorney was mixing up this project with another one for the Planning Commission, where two people didn't.
No, we were all here on August 4th.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Duly noted in the minutes of that meeting, actually.
Yes.
So there is a reference to that.
All right, very good. All right.
All right.
Please go ahead.
Thank you for that. Yeah, no problems. So with that, back to 41 Marvin Avenue. Sean, did you want to start us off with the staff report?
Yes. Good evening, Chair Bishop and Commissioners. The project before you is a design review application for a new two-story house with a basement. The project includes 1,982 square feet at the first story, 1,464 square feet at the second story. The project was before the Commission on August 4th of this year. The subject property is located on Morven Avenue between Pepper and Eleanor Drive. Again, the surrounding property, staff believe, is considered diverse character as defined in the city's residential design guidelines. This is a result of the homes in the immediate neighborhood context being a combination of 1 and 2 stories, with 2-story homes at 21 Marvin, 60 Marvin, 70 Marvin, and 108 Marvin. Exterior materials are varying with stucco, wood siding, trim accents. While homes predominantly are lower scale, there are a variety of homes in the neighborhood with varying scales. On August 4th, the DRC held a public meeting to consider the proposed project. The commission voted unanimously 4-0, with Commissioner Carrick is abstaining, to continue the project with direction to the applicant to reduce the size of the second-story deck, reduce the wall plate heights by 6 to 12 inches, reduce the visual impact of the garage by raising the plate height by 1 foot, reduce the roof overhang, reduce the size of the tall second-story floor windows, and make the roof pitches better integrate into the neighborhood. The applicant did, in the packet that was submitted with the staff report, the applicant did reduce the deck's area from 280 square feet to 155, while the overall footprint of the area did not decrease. The applicant did add a green roof in front of the balcony to reduce the actual footprint of the balcony. While the residential design guidelines recommends a 4-foot deck for balconies oriented towards side and rear property lines, staff believes since the deck is oriented towards the front and rear property lines is consistent with the design guidelines. While there may be perceived potential privacy impacts, the deck's orientation to a public right-of-way, the 6-foot tall privacy fence along the side and front property lines, and new screening trees, staff believes will contribute to a reasonable degree of privacy. Based on the direction from the DRC, the applicant reduced the plate heights from 9 feet 3 inches to 9 feet, a 3-foot reduction. As conveyed, I'm kind of losing my place 1 second. So I think it's out of order for some reason. Sorry about that. Reduce the plate heights 3 inches. In addition, the applicant proposes to replace the darker color siding with stucco and off-white cream finish along elevations. This is conveyed in this series of renderings, both exterior, front, rear, and side, where there is currently a white or creamish stucco that previously was a darker material. In addition, the reveal joints that were previously located along the rear of the structure and along the right side of the exterior elevation has been revised to reduce the overall impression of bulk and scale. In addition, the windows proportions have changed to make the windows more proportionate to the elevations and to reduce the perception of bulk and scale. The applicant proposed the addition of a lighter stucco soffit up in the eaves or in the soffits to reduce the overall impression of heaviness and overall increasing bulk. The applicant also proposed a brick material. The intention behind this is to provide a relationship to the existing structure, which did have brick elements, and to provide a different architectural material that helps to break up the overall bulk and mass of the structure. That is proposed along this living room element and then wrapped around the right side of the structure. And in addition, in regards to reducing the visual impact of the garage by raising the plates, there were no modifications. As indicated in the last staff report, the garage is a non-conforming structure due to having a 13-foot 6-inch or 13-foot exterior side setback, where a 20-foot side setback is required. The setback encroachment was created as a result of construction of the garage in 1980. It is therefore considered a legal non-conforming structure. If the applicant was to propose raising the plate heights, it would result in modifying more than 50% of the exterior walls and roof. And since the project is not proposing to eliminate or replacing more than 50%, the applicant is permitted to retain the non-conforming structure and setbacks as maintained. If they did exceed the 50%, then they would have to relocate the garage structure to comply with the setbacks for the district. With regards to reduction in the roof overhang, the applicant reduced the overall length of the roof overhang, projecting for the balcony from 11 feet 9 inches to 9 feet 6 inches to comply with the Commission's request. In regards to reducing the size of the tall second-story floor windows, the applicant did propose to modify the second floor high windows along the front elevation for bedroom 2 and bathroom 2 as conveyed in this drawing on the screen. The upper drawing is the proposed project that's before you tonight. As reflected in these 2 window panels and door panels, you can see directly above in the August 4th meeting elevation for the front, there were a series of windows above the doorway and above the window. Those have been eliminated. Above the primary sliding doors, there were also windows in the August 4th proposal for the front elevation. The applicant has not proposed to remove those windows. Instead, they are recommending a roller shade. Typically, the city or in design review, we typically see more permanent structures incorporated into a design. And so the Design Review Commission could consider a more opaque glass or a tint for the glass to further obstruct potential light pollution for neighboring properties if the commission desires. The Design Review Guidelines, recommends avoiding, to clarify, sorry. So in regards to making the roof pitch better integrated into the neighborhood, the applicant has not proposed modifying the roof pitches. Design plan details are currently 1.5 and 12, 2 and 12, 4.5 and 12, and the garage is 3.5 and 12. The Design Review Guidelines recommends avoiding roof lines that are more complex in the immediate neighborhood context, and a more consistent roof slope would simplify the overall roof form if the commission further directs the design. Before you is a exterior side elevation, the August 4th meeting slide, and on the October 6th. Again, as stated previously, there is variation with the incorporation of white stucco exterior material, the replacement of the darker wood material with a brick material, the elimination of the reveal joints as conveyed here on this wall, and with a more solid, lighter color on the front elevation. This is also partially conveyed in this rendering. On the left side is the previous design from the last meeting of August 4th. On the right side is the detailing for the October 6th meeting for today. This elevation on the left side again is the August 4th meeting. Again, it shows windows above the bedroom number 2 and bathroom 2's windows. They've been removed. The windows above the bedroom windows have been maintained. The first floor elevation of the front elevation has been replaced with a white stucco. No reveals are located along this elevation. The window proportions have increased. As conveyed in the front elevation for August 4th, the window sizes were a factor in the perspective of increased bulk for this elevation. And by enlarging the windows, it reduces the perception of bulk along the front elevation. This also provides a rendering of both the August 4th on this left side and the October 6th on the right side, and it also further conveys some of the changes. One additional change was the removal of the chimney stack here to try to reduce the perception of overall bulk on this elevation. On the interior side elevation, which is the right side of the structure, there is the incorporation of additional white, lighter stucco on the structure. The overall window pattern has not changed. The brick does wrap around the side to change the material along the first story of the interior side elevation. This provides, I should clarify too, this is correct. This also provides the interior side, but from a rendering perspective. This is the August 4th meeting, and this is the October 6th meeting. This provides the rear elevation of the structure. The upper drawing is of the August 4th meeting with much much more darker material on the siding, and is replaced with a stucco finish with a lighter color. Window patterns have not significantly changed. Window sizes have not changed. And then this shows the garage and the differentiation in the color pattern that's chosen. This also conveys the rendering that conveys the August 4th on the left and the October 6th for tonight's meeting on the right. The applicant is maintaining 15 of the 21 trees on the property. They are proposing 2 new crepe myrtle trees in the front yard. The intention behind the crepe myrtles is to minimize some of the perception of bulk from the proposed second story features. And in addition, they're proposing the incorporation of a 6-foot tall fence along the frontage and a 30-inch fence running from the frontage all the way to the side of the building. Staff would like a note, an oversight. The 6-foot tall fence that is located along the frontage of the property is required to be a minimum of 5 feet from the front property line. And if it is proposed, and if the commission approves the project, we recommend that the condition be incorporated that requires a minimum 5-foot setbacks for any fence that's 6 feet tall. A complete list of the on-site trees, the immediately adjacent trees are provided in the project plans. This provides you the existing structure. As part of the DRC packet, staff provided a letter from a resident raising concerns regarding the historic nature of the building. And a response was provided from Garavaglia Architecture that again reiterated that the house is not a historic resource or landmark under the city's historic inventory and does not qualify under the National Register or the California Register. This concludes staff's presentation. Unless there are any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Sean, thank you. That was a very good report.
Before we go to the
back.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. Before we go to the questions, one other bit of housekeeping I meant to take care of at the beginning, but I got sidetracked by my confusion that people were absent last time, is ex parte contacts. So normally we disclose those before hearing the matter.
So would you describe what that means to all of us on the commission, please?
Sure. So if you've had conversations with anyone about this matter, then you should put that in the record just so that that conversation becomes part of the record. So if you've met with the applicant, you could just say, I met with the applicant and discussed the project, or if you met with community members, you could just identify that for the record.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much. So to the commissioners, I have not. So has anyone had any of the meetings as described by the city attorney? So let's just go through the roll. Sam?
No.
Jude's not here. David?
Yes, I had a 2-minute conversation with the applicant today at the property when I was walking through. She noted that there was a city light opposite of her property in the corner that lit the street. And that's what she had pointed out to me.
Okay, thanks, David. Michael?
Yes, I had a short conversation with the applicant before our first meeting, before that August 4th meeting on the property. When I visited that property, we had a short conversation. And then also before that August 4th meeting, a neighbor and I had a phone conversation about this project before that first meeting.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And this is Frank speaking. I have not had any conversations, so let's
Frank,
put that into.
Let me go back, because in the first meeting, when I toured the house, I did have a conversation, but it was just, I mean, there was no substance conversation. It was just, I'd like to look around the house for the DRC. So.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, Sam, thanks for putting that in the record as well. Okay, great. So I think we've covered that now. So back to, thank you, Sean, for the presentation. Commissioners, I guess we can start with Sam. Did you have any questions for Sean tonight on the presentation?
Yeah, significant and big, because the item that I was most concerned about, which was turned into a roof pitch, nothing was done about it. I feel like it was ignored, meaning that to make some knowledge of the history of the house in the new construction. I see no effort at all in doing that. So I'm just concerned, Sean, that you know, that which was the most strong element in our issues for last time was not addressed, as far as I can see, at all.
Do you have a particular question about that, Sam?
Well, it basically is the same house. There's nothing in the new design between the two times that reflects any of the requested elements that might tie it to the old house. That was, okay. I guess, what was translated by roof pitch. So,
right. And so then your question would be, there haven't been any changes to the roof pitch. Is that
right.
correct? Sure.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay.
And
all right. I think that's fair. And
disregarded.
I think that'll certainly come out later in the discussion as well. So thank you. Any other questions, Sam?
No.
Okay. Jude's not participating. David, do you have any questions of Sean's presentation?
Yeah, I have a couple. So there's some information regarding setbacks, front, side, and all that. Could you elaborate which is the front setback, side setbacks? And then I have further questions, so I wanted to answer that one first.
Let me, 1 second. Let me, I'm trying to get something for you, which maybe will explain, because I think there were a series of questions today from different individuals.
Correct.
Okay, so here I have, let me go to this real quick for you. So this provides the proposed drawing. It's in an email format because there were some questions going out today regarding this. So the front setback is along the south property line. Although the front door is located here, this is considered the exterior side, which is the west side. So this is the front setback. It currently is approximately about 35, 1.5 inches from the property line to the front of the building. Along the exterior side, there is a 20 and 1.5 inch setback. So the requirements per code as reflected in this yellow line for the front setback is 25 feet. From this yellow line to this column, it is over 10 feet setback. The requirement for setback on this exterior side is 20 feet. It is meeting that setback of 20 feet. This is the rear elevation, and it is again complying with the 25-foot setback. And on this right side, it is exceeding the setback standard. This also provides you an example of the current site. So the current site has a 46 foot 10 inch setback from the front property line, as a 28 and 1.75 setback from the exterior side setback. And this is to the outer edge of the column. Does that provide clarification, or did you want specifically?
No, that does, because there was a question by one of the letters indicating discussion about a 40-foot setback.
So there is a near 40-foot setback that extends from the front property line to the outer wall, the exterior stucco surface of the wall. However, we measure from, I mean, we measure from that wall, of course, but we also measure to the most outer wall or column. And so since the second story balcony is extending, it's supported by a column. And so if we measure from the column to the front property line, that's where we get the reduced setback of 35 feet.
So as planned, it meets all the setbacks.
Correct. Yes, it does.
Okay. The second question I had was with the balcony, you now have a planter. Could you describe, is there anything, I couldn't find it, what the planting material is going to be, or what is going to be, you know, I know in the sort of closer to the front door, there's a green roof planter area. Maybe the applicant could explain this a little bit better, but what are the plans for that particular area?
I would probably defer to the architects for this project. Either Alessandra or Eugene Sakai could probably answer that question on what's proposed for the plantings.
Okay, great. And then we have, by my calculations, the second story, or the usable deck is down 125 feet, approximately 45%, but the actual covering is approximately the same. Is that correct? Because you have the 4.5 feet that it cuts off, that was, I guess, you know, you could walk on, is now a planting surface that's not for, you know, people to walk on.
So the roof overhang was reduced from 11 feet 9 inches to 9 feet 6 inches. So
Okay.
it is about a 2 foot 3 inch reduction in the roof overhang above
Okay.
that balcony area.
Okay.
If the architects could speak to that also. If the commission has additional direction, then they may consider that.
Okay, I think that is all of the clarification stuff I have. I think it's probably more for the architect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. So, Michael, did you have questions tonight for Sean?
No, I don't have any question. Thanks.
Okay. And Frank, I have a couple questions. It'll probably go back to the owner. Here's one for Sean. So in regards to modifying the existing garage, that this 50% rule, that if we change more than 50%, you know, the garage would, you know, have to come down effectively. You know, modifications, Sean, they don't have to be binary, right? That it's kind of all or nothing. Was there any discussion around something that would enable us to change the garage in a fashion that would still make it more proportional to the house without tripping over this 50% thing? Or was it just a binary, it's a yes or no, and we just moved on? Because I thought that was something that could have actually helped enhance the property, and it sounds like we just stepped by it. Could you talk a little bit to that for me, please?
Sure. So the applicant was responding to the final direction that and that what the city received, which was a reduction of the plate. So
no, it was actually an increase. It was an increase, not a reduction.
Or
go ahead.
A modification of the plate height. And so they were limited to, they were focused on responding to that. If they could probably speak to the point if they'd be willing to respond to it in some other direction, but that it would have been necessary for the commission to have provided that direction.
Okay, then I think I'll hold that then as we get a little bit further, because I think there may be some ways to do something with that. So, okay. It wasn't necessarily the city that said it was, you know, all or nothing type of a thing. Okay. Let's see, where are we here? Okay, so we've gone through our questions. unless there's a follow-up question from one of the commissioners, I guess we would move on to the owner architect to have them give us an updated presentation. So shall we move on? Anyone have a follow-up question?
Chair Bishop, I did, that kind of tags on to what you're talking about.
Yeah,
If
please, go ahead.
is a variance an option for that garage, should that be something to pursue?
I would imagine it is, and that's a very good question.
Yes, absolutely. If the commission wanted to, would be willing to consider a variance for a garage modification, yes. If you can meet the particular findings for a variance, that is a potential.
Okay, it may be a help actually for the project. Okay, good follow-up on that point, David. All right, so at this point then, I think we'll pause on our questions for Sean. We could be back though, Sean, so don't go far. So we'll turn this over now to Guido. Could we turn it over to the owner architect? And I think we have 10 minutes for them to give their presentation. I believe that's correct.
Yes, Chair Bishop, it's 10 minutes and then the public get 3 minutes each and then 5 minutes each.
Correct, yes. So Guido, could we bring up the presentation, or Sean, for the owner architect at this point, please?
I believe they have it up right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Eugene or your team?
Hadel, did you want to start?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Little faint.
Barely.
Can you guys hear me now?
That's much better.
Okay. Thank you in advance for your time. We met last on August 4th. And as a reminder, I wanted to just reiterate, out of love for our neighbors and respect for our city's due process, we've been in the past agreed to a review with licensed historians chosen and contracted by the city. And we've paid for not one, but multiple historic evaluations and the city's assessment for that. Me and my family have been waiting patiently for 2+ years for the city to complete their due process and get our design approved. And our patience, again, stems mainly from our goal to ensure our neighbors know and the city knows that we mean it. We want to be good neighbors. As I mentioned before, our goal is to present a very thoughtfully designed home with a strong connection to our surroundings, which is a diverse character neighborhood. On August 4th, we've heard our City Design Review Commission and have done everything possible to comply to their comments from their meeting. We've reduced our balcony by more than 40%, reduced our roof overhangs, removed windows, lowered mass and bulk, added trees to increase privacy, and keeping our home hidden from backyards and kitchen windows. We added back a white fence, brick chimney to bring back some of the existing feel of the exterior of the home. We want to build a home that belongs here 100 years from now. And we want to admire it for its simplicity and feeling of belonging. So I thank you all for your time and kind consideration to this home that we've lovingly designed. And I'll pass it on to our architect, Eugene, to give you some more details.
Thanks, Hadel. Eugene Sakai, representing the Pandya family and Studio S Squared Architecture. First of all, thanks to the commissioners for your service to Los Altos and for hearing our project a second time this evening, and also a nice shout out to Sean for an excellent staff report. As you know, our firm has presented many projects before this commission over the years. I personally have a deep appreciation for the fairness of the process here in Los Altos and this commission's consistency in applying the city's design guidelines, even in the face of neighborhood opposition, which we are going to hear from tonight, and as you've heard in many letters. When you last saw us on August 4th, this commission provided us with very specific direction on how to reposition our project as to garner approval on a subsequent hearing. And here we are this evening. So tonight I wish to show you these changes that we've made in response to your direction. Some of these are summarized here. And a lot of this was already handled very thoroughly by Sean. So he actually has saved me some time. Here's a slide. Basically, on most of these slides, if not all of them, we have side-by-side comparisons of our August 4th design on the left and our current design on the right. Just as a quick overview, I've got 14 different points that I wanted to cover. Some of these I'm going to go over quite quickly because Sean has already covered them. But I've got some different perspectives and different viewpoints than what Sean has shown. So I think these will further understand of the changes. So this is a top-down view of our roof plan, which shows the reduction of the usable balcony area, shown in orange here on August 4th, and then again here tonight, reduced about 45%. The roof, this balcony is serving as a patio cover for the outdoor area below it. And so it's sort of doing dual purposes, both a balcony and a patio cover. So the balcony portion has been reduced, the patio cover function remains. As was mentioned and as was suggested by this commission, our direction was to reduce the bulk of the roof overhang. And so we did that by reducing it about 2 feet as seen at this apex condition here. And then furthermore, there was sort of a variety of comments from both the neighbors and the commission about the overall dark tone of the building. And so both on the soffits, which are visible from below, and on the wall surfaces, as you've seen, we've generally lightened up the palette quite a bit. You can see a blow up of a couple of color swatches here of the darker color we had proposed in August, and tonight's more cream color here, sort of a rich mottled color, if you will, that actually has a lot of texture and variety in it. A blow up of part of our elevation showing some of the changes where we've eliminated some of these score joints, which I think create a bit more of a modern or contemporary appearance, and just gone with a smooth stucco to replace it. We've added window trim around the windows where we didn't have that before. We heard the concerns about wall to window ratio and that contributing to a sense of bulk and perhaps a lack of proportion and sort of skill or deft fenestration design, if you will. And so we've adjusted that by raising the window head heights as shown, and thereby reducing the overall wall to window ratio. One of the suggestions from, I believe it was Commissioner Harding, was to consider bringing into the new design some materials that are seen in the existing building. And so about that and decided that that the brick that is currently seen on the labyrinth would be a good material to introduce. Since it already exists on site, we could actually bring some of that landscaping element into the architecture as well. And so, as you saw on Sean's slide, we have that now at the entry. We replaced this board formed concrete with more of a brick look. We've also eliminated the chimney to further reduce bulk and mass, as you can see here. There was discussion and presentation by Sean about the window change above the second floor bedroom. That was in an effort to reduce the amount of glazing and light pollution. Also, along those same lines, was a revision of the light fixture. So we basically now have more of a strict downward casting light fixture on the right, a revision from the one on the left, which would actually have had a glow out of the front of it. There was a suggestion, I believe, from one of the community members about the white fence being a nice feature of the home. And so on the left, previously we had a dark colored fence going with a darker colored theme of the building. We've since changed that to white. It'll still be a new fence, but more in keeping with the white picket fence that exists there now. As mentioned by Sean, we've introduced 2 crepe myrtle trees. These will be planted basically at adult size. These are trees that are intended to screen the view of the balcony towards the westerly neighbors on Marvin, and as you can see, shielding the view both to and from the balcony from the street. These are some views or simulations that we've created of the previous design and the view from the balcony outward, and the revised design with the added trees. So we've highlighted these houses in a bright orange color. And as you can see here, there's additional screening to help filter the views out towards the street. I wanted to point out and reiterate the balcony condition. I think the commission here is used to seeing balconies facing the rear property lines. And as Sean pointed out, this is facing the public right-of-way. And as such, the building-to-building separation is not just over a common fence line and two backyards. You're basically looking over 2 front yards and a public street. And so the idea that privacy from the front is as a right to be protected as privacy from the rear, I don't think that necessarily applies here. This is a unique condition where we have a front-facing balcony. We looked carefully at the idea of our building contributing to light pollution in the neighborhood, and we noted that there is an existing street lamp that is already very bright and probably its own worst enemy in terms of street light pollution. And so it's not to say that our building is not going to be contributing to that in some way, but I think the delta of the contribution is heavily mitigated by the existing condition of this light, which is on basically all evening long, and our lights certainly will not be interior lights anyway. One thing we really wanted to point out is that the existing building is quite filtered from the westerly side of Marvin by these existing oak trees, and that condition will in fact remain with the proposed design. These trees are to remain, and this filtered view is going to remain as a feature of the project. So all in all, to sum up, as we stated back on August 4th, the new building is actually of similar mass and bulk to the existing residence, and it's far less massive than our northerly neighbor, 2-story neighbor to the north. Per this commission's direction, we've reduced the balconies area. We've added trees for privacy to protect our westerly neighbors' privacy from our own balcony. We've lightened the color palette, and we've called back to the existing building through use of lighter colors and materials. And we've also revised windows. So all in all, we were listening. We do take your direction very seriously. We appreciate the wisdom of this commission. And we hope that you see that you can find for this project tonight and approve us. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Thank you to the owner and the architect for the presentation. So with this, from the commission side, we'll go through, I'm sure there are a number of questions based on earlier comments in the meeting. We'll tackle this one at a time and then see if there's any follow-up questions. So Sam, would you want to kick this off and ask a question or two, please? Sam?
Right. Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can now. Maybe you were
Okay.
muted. Yes. So
Yeah,
yes, we were coming to the questions of the owner and the architect. If you
Sure.
if you had one, please. Yes.
So this is actually for both, because I really have a question. I have been, as you may have realized, quite concerned about kind of how the process of this design has moved through the system. And so I went back and found the what constitutes your neighborhood file. That was in the original documents date, and I found the one dated September 10th, 2019. And so it's been completed by hand. Someone has written in all the answers, but there's nothing on this neighborhood report that really says anything about the existing house. Many of the questions, at least from my looking at the house and the neighborhood, are inaccurate or maybe even misleading. And so I don't know who prepares this, but I can go through this particular, my understanding of it. There's no mention in this neighborhood that this is a house on the corner. There's no mention that there is any issue about the historical elements, whether it's a historical building. Some of the questions on number 9 under how visible are your house and other houses from the street? And the answer is asphalt for public right-of-way. So, I mean, there's no more visible a house on Marvin than this house. And as you have heard from neighbors and others, it really constitutes the neighborhood. And then question number 11, what characteristics make this neighborhood cohesive? And the answer is basically many have large front yards with trees and plants. Nothing mentioning about the style of the house. Does the new exterior remodel or new construction design relate in most ways to the prevailing style of the existing neighborhood? It's checked yes. Well, it doesn't. So I don't know who prepares this, if that's Eugene or the owner, but it certainly does not represent, if I hadn't visited, I would never guess that this neighborhood report represents 41 Marvin.
Commissioner Harding, do you have a question for the applicant?
Yes, I'm trying to determine the source of the, who submitted this neighborhood report, because I find it quite inaccurate. So I'm asking either Gene or the owner.
I'll take that. You know, we'll take ownership for and responsibility for that document. You know, and I do hear your concerns. This is a corner lot, as you mentioned. And I don't have the document in front of me. I wasn't prepared to discuss it tonight because it was something that was given to you at the previous hearing. This is a corner lot. It is a diverse character neighborhood, you know, all of which is in the staff report. Our analysis of the neighborhood, you know, we went over on our August 4th presentation and didn't revisit it here because of the time constraint. But, you know, we chose to reference not the existing house. I don't believe the design guidelines call for referencing your own to-be demolished structure, but rather some of the existing homes immediately nearby, such as some of the more contemporary ranch-style homes that are prevalent in most of Los Altos. And certainly we see some very good examples of very nice, fine mid-century ranch homes in this neighborhood. And so that was really our inspiration, taking advantage of the diverse character designation and drawing on the homes that we were most inspired by, those being the ranch homes, with their low slope roofs, their relatively clean lines, their fairly simple architecture. You know, on August 4th, Commissioner Harding, you know, we listened very carefully. We listened to the recording of this hearing and read the minutes and made sure our notes were in line with our recollection. And, you know, there was discussion on your part about the roof pitch. But ultimately, you know, your final position on that was that in lieu of a major redesign of the massing of the project, including roof pitch, that introducing materials from the existing palette into the new design would be a sufficient callback or recollection of what existed, as opposed to a more significant attempt to mass this structure like the existing. And so that's really what we were attempting to follow, was your own direction from August 4th. And so a lot of what you're saying tonight, again, revisiting the roof pitch idea and the whole style of the house is, it runs counter to our own notes and to the public record from August 4th. So, you know, we respectfully would you know, if your opinion has changed, that's fine. But, you know, all we can do is go by what was said before. And so that's
Well,
what we've attempted to do here.
Your interpretation of what I said, I think, is I have a question about, to be kind. As in many of the letters from neighbors, the issue is not the minor heights, windows, and so forth. It's the look. And what I was asking for is you to figure out some way to continue that look in the new design. And that's, I see that there's been, in my viewing, no effort to do that.
Correct. Yeah, I would say that is correct. Yeah, I'm not going to deny
Hey,
that.
Sam,
Yeah.
it's Frank.
Yes.
Did you have another question that you'd like to propose to the owner architect?
Well, it's the same one as the earlier, but maybe more defined, that to have some elements of the existing house be carried forward in the new design to allow the continuation of that feel in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and Commissioner Sam Harding, we basically took the brick and changed the material from stamped concrete to put in more brick on the house, just to kind of continue with what was in the front yard. And we also have a brick fireplace today, so we put in again a brick fireplace, and we thought that that would be a sign of bringing something forward.
Okay. It doesn't do, for me, it doesn't do it. So I'll just leave it that way. I'm not happy with the continuation of the initial design without any accommodation to the concerns of your neighbors and others.
And I would just like to give a reminder that this is a time for asking questions of the applicant, and discussion will come later.
Right. Thank you for that. So Sam, did you have a follow-up question?
No.
Okay, so let's save some of that for the discussion section. And then if you've completed the questions, we'll go over to David. David, did you have questions for the owner or the architect tonight?
Yeah, let me get my notes here. I guess to start off, what is an adult size crepe myrtle that you're going to be putting in? I mean, how big is it? How full is it? Because there's been some concern about taking out that large tree, which all the branches are, 30 feet high. And so you just see sort of a trunk, and then a smaller crepe myrtle that's right there at the property. So could you explain what a adult size crepe myrtle, the two trees that you are going to put in, how big are those?
I think adult size is roughly around 13 to 15 feet to start, and that would probably represent something in a 48 to 60 inch box.
Okay. And then could you explain, as I asked Sean, maybe incorrectly, for the roof and the garden area parts of the roof, what do you and your client envision as going in there? Sort of give us a context of what that may look like, and how, if anything, does it sort of cut up the mass and bulk of the property, if it does at all?
Well, it is it's a one-story element, and patio roof covers are very common in most projects we do, at least. They're normally seen at the rear, so this one is certainly more visible because it's visible from the street. In terms of us reducing bulk and mass, this slide, I think, illustrates some of our strategy. I think the lighter color, as I mentioned, is one. Pulling the balcony railing inboard, as you see here on the right, is another. Changing the material from this darker metal to a more transparent material, as we're showing, is yet another. And then the planting in front of it is probably the one that will do the most. As to what plants those are, green roofs, they have to be basically carefully specified because it's not a natural environmental condition. But on past projects, we've seen our landscape architects specify things like perennial grasses, and we would also expect to see some vines that would drape over the parapet wall here, as you can see, and sort of soften the look of that wall. So I think all of these in combination, all of those gestures are what we're using as our strategy for reducing the bulk and mass of this single story element.
And it would not include, because of planter box of size, any big tree or something that would scale wise make the house look funky. Is that correct?
I mean, you certainly could do trees in a planter box, but you normally see those on large commercial structures like parking garages and apartment buildings with concrete podiums. On wood frame buildings, generally, the plantings that you can do on a platform such as this might be no more than 2 to 3 feet tall. Grasses are nice because they have a fairly low water demand. They can fill in and screen things like this railing pretty adequately. They're hardy. They can survive wind and pretty harsh environmental conditions. So I don't know if that answers your question, but no large trees I don't think are contemplated for that planter.
Okay. And could you explain in your iterations, using the city's description of it being the neighborhood as a diverse character neighborhood, does that mean one particular style must be used, whether it be prairie style or mid-century modern or straight modern? Do you think, and how do you think you have followed the city's guidelines for a diverse character neighborhood?
That's a great question. So we've done projects in both circumstances, diverse character neighborhoods and not diverse character neighborhoods, or consistent character neighborhoods, I believe the term is. And our approach is very different depending on the designation. In a consistent character neighborhood, the reason why that designation is given is largely because of the fairly homogeneous nature of the immediate surroundings. And as you all know on this commission, the surroundings are defined by certain parcels to the left, right, rear, and front. It's not blocks and blocks away. And so in those cases, in a consistent character neighborhood, we generally try to propose something very much in keeping with what is around us. Sometimes we propose a 2-story home in a single-story neighborhood, but when we do so with a real attempt to bring massing elements, architectural details into our design that draw from our immediate neighbors. On the other hand, in a diverse character neighborhood such as this one, there is no overriding sense of homogeneity. There is no one style to sort of draw inspiration from. What does, however, still govern is being a good neighbor by not proposing a building that is overly bulky or overly massive or overly impactful compared to what was there before. And as I pointed out on August 4th, our building is approximately the same size as what was there. It's even shorter than the building that is there now. The building that is there now does not comply with zoning and daylight plane and numerous other regulations that are now in effect, and the current proposal does. It's a different style of architecture, yes, but it's fully code compliant, whereas the current building is not. The current building is not a historic structure. And in the diverse character neighborhood, those are the things that really govern. Privacy, bulk, massing, and impact. And from all of those standpoints, I feel that this project checks off all those boxes.
Great, thank you. That's all the questions I think I have.
Okay, David, thank you. Michael, over to
Yeah.
you.
All right. I got a few questions for Eugene, architect. Start with the minor one. I noticed the garage door also got revised. Is it? I think the previous one has no window, and the new one has a window. I mean, it's something just minor, but I'm just trying to see your reason for the change on the garage door.
Caught me here. I'm gonna have to. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So this is our design for this evening.
Yeah.
So you're talking about these horizontal lines here?
Yeah. The previous one. Did you change the design, the door design?
We both had windows, but yeah, I think this one is an adjusted version of what we had before. Okay. These are basically slot windows, if you will. The glass is no more than about 2 inches tall, running the width of almost the entire garage door. You know, there was some discussion both tonight and on the 4th about trying to raise up the height of the garage to better be in scale with the house, and I thought it was a fair suggestion. However, as was alluded to earlier, to alter the portion of the structure that is in the front or the exterior side setback would require a variance, and you know, should it be at the commission's pleasure to allow us to go that road, I think we would, but we didn't want to presume that, we didn't want to pile on the burden of a variance approval on top of what we're already facing, you know, here tonight. And so that's why we chose to mostly play with materials and color to make the garage more harmonious with the house and not increase the mass in the non-code compliant area.
Okay. Yeah, this is a minor item. So, okay, yeah, thanks for the answer. Your answer. The other one is the brick. I know you introduced some new brick into the house. I know the chimney is one of them, even though you got rid of the chimney. But the fireplace, can you point out other places where you put the brick veneer?
Yeah, sure. We actually are spotlighting. It's a little hard to see on this.
Yeah, it's hard to see. That's why I'm asking. Like,
yeah, we're spotlighting it in areas in which we feel it will provide a visual connection to 2 existing landscape elements. So you've all seen this beautiful corner landscape feature, the brick labyrinth. So we wanted to highlight the brick in areas where there's that visual connection between the labyrinth and the building. So we're showing the brick here. Although we got rid of the protruding part of the chimney, this is essentially where the fireplace is. But more importantly, it's also at the entry, which is going to recall the brick pathway that weaves between the oak trees. And so between the brick labyrinth, the brick pathway, and the brick around the front door, you know, we feel that we're actually tying the ground plane and the vertical elements of the building together very nicely, and also introducing a more historic feeling material. So that was our strategy with the brick. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just asking because the brick actually, if you see in real life, it's more like a pinkish red or red. But on the rendering, of course, the color always is not the true color when you project onto the printed paper or on the monitor. But what I'm seeing on the print, the hard copy as well as on the monitor, it's more this brick, especially on the wall, appear to be more darker. Yeah, darker, less red.
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation. But you'll see also that we are the labyrinth is also painted the same color. So the intent is actually that they match. It's just that the brick that we used in our modeling software
Yeah.
does not have that exact color. But the intent is that they all relatively are of the same color family and tie together. They're not intended to be like a new color brick in the project. So
All right.
I think another option might be to actually stain the existing brick to match the new brick. But I think either way, you know, we're trying to kind of call back, not differentiate from what's there.
Okay. And then the last question I have, actually it's kind of overall, since I think that this is the second meeting already.
Mm-hmm.
I think that people still raise about the definition of the diverse, you know, character, and then how your compatibility of the design.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I want to ask you about the initial design idea for this design.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, of course, this is a collaboration, you know, discussion, communication between you and the owner.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the initial, the essence of the house design style? Where does it come from? I think in order to have a more discussion and for people to understand, maybe we should explore what's your initial concept, you know, to design this house, and then how this one will fit into the context of this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you
That's
maybe
a great,
kind of elaborate?
yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah.
I rarely get a chance to be philosophical
Yeah.
in these hearings, but you know, I can talk all day long about the philosophy of the design.
Oh, it doesn't need to be long. Just kind of like, you know,
I know.
how you know, we've seen a lot of your design. I mean, you know, coming to Los Altos over the years, right?
Yeah.
And this one it's pretty unique, and especially in this neighborhood. So, and this is certainly different, you know, very different from the one you presented before.
Sure.
So I just wonder how does it started and how does it evolve? I mean, it doesn't need to be like a 30 minutes, you know, just
okay. No, I'll keep it short. I was joking.
And then this is for everyone to have a better understanding of where you're coming from.
Yeah, no, I was being facetious there. And I appreciate the question. So, I mean, to answer your question, you know, the house that's there, I think, you know, people are used to seeing it there. I think it's a very visible lot, right? First of all, when you drive down Marvin, when you walk down Marvin, just the any corner lot stands out. This one stands out even more, I think, because of the fact that it's very open on the corner, and that's why I have this view up here. The house draws your attention. You can't miss it as you drive or walk by, and so there's a familiarity there with that house. There's a you know, there's a comfort in seeing that house that's been there so long that I think that's why people's emotions are really being raised by, you know, our proposal to replace that house. So that's why, you know, the first thing was to figure out, is this a house that is protected? Is it a house that needs to be respected from a legal point of view, from a legal environmental CEQA point of view, as being a structure of historic integrity or merit? And multiple consultants over the years, not just for this application, have deemed the existing house to have lost any historical integrity. So that was point number one, was that the existing house that exists has lost whatever historic integrity it might have. And that was not my opinion. That was those of multiple independent experts retained by the city of Los Altos. So now that that's out of the picture, the question for the architect becomes, okay, if this existing house is not a factor in the design of the new house, what can we do with it? So for our team, it was looking back at the site characteristics. Again, it's a prominent corner lot. It's got these beautiful oak trees. It's got a south-facing exposure that faces the street, which is interesting. It's got a front door that basically winds through this pathway of oak trees. And so what informed the design was really wanting to keep some of the features that we liked about the current house, which was, number one, the south-facing exposure to the yard that is on Marvin Avenue. and then keep the brick pathway pretty much as it exists to wind up to a new front door. And so once you've done those two gestures, you've pretty much designed your ground floor. You've got your south-facing elevation opening to the south side of Marvin. You've got your west-facing elevation trying to provide a welcoming pathway to the front. And then the question is, for the second floor, what do you do there? And so that's where we started looking at some of the existing homes around us, and then our own knowledge of Los Altos and its tradition of ranch-style architecture. And so in this roof line, we are actually attempting to call back to some of the simpler, clean roof lines that you see in 1950s, 40s, and 60s Los Altos ranch homes. So we have a very simple roof line that basically just kind of, you know, envelops the whole second floor. It's a complex floor plan, but the roof line itself is very simple. And so really those are the genesis, or those are the progenitors of this design, you know, and a lot of it was informed by the way the existing building works. And what we changed were things that really didn't work for the owner. Things like the awkward interior spaces, the low cramped ceiling heights, and just their own personal aesthetic. When someone commissions a new home, they're doing so with a lot of bravery, because, you know, they know they're in for, you know, trials and ordeals like what they've gone through for the last 2 years. And so bravely, they want to sort of have their own aesthetic in this project, and their own vision for what their dream home looks like, not someone else's. I mean, this is their property. These are their personal rights. And so it's an expression of all those things. What is the existing building telling us? What is the site telling us? What are the oak trees telling us? What is the solar orientation? And then what do the owners want? I think all of those are very important. And that's really what drove the project. And then our own understanding of the residential design guidelines, and having been an architect in Los Altos for a long time now. So there's no one thing that informed this project. I'm glad you find it unique. We find it very unique in our portfolio, but it's a unique site. It's a unique client. It's a unique opportunity, and that's what drove this building. And you know, so I take your comment of unique with actually, I view that as a compliment. And you know, I think there should be room in any city for the unique, particularly when you have a unique site like this. And I know the unique is often scary, and it's different, and it's hard to approve.
All right, thank you, Eugene, for your explanation. That's all I had. Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Michael, thank you for that. So any follow-up questions from the commissioners before we move on? Okay, hearing none. The next section of tonight's meeting will be speaking, public will have an opportunity to comment again on the project. And as was mentioned earlier, we'll provide 3 minutes per individual this evening. And also, as we mentioned in the last meeting, there's no ceding of time from one to another. So with that, I guess, Guido, if you could man the phones and bring the public comments forward, that would be the next segment, please.
All right, sounds good. First up is B. Shahir.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No worries. Good evening.
Good evening.
Should I just go ahead?
Yeah, you have 3 minutes. So.
Yeah, we first became aware that the neighbors were planning on knocking this house down in July, and since then we've been educating ourselves in the process and the fairness and figure out, you know, what makes sense. We first saw the design sort of first commission meeting, and I guess takeaway has been that the process talks about the tension between a homeowner's desire to build their dream house and its suitability for the particular neighborhood. And, you know, I guess this is the main tension in every build, especially a new build, especially one where you're tearing down a 100-year-old house that has great visibility to a neighborhood. And I wrote a letter to the commission earlier today objecting primarily based on the design and its suitability for this. I understand it's a diverse character neighborhood, which gives them some latitude, and fair enough. But I just have to say, I think the design that's presented is more than 2 standard deviations from a usual or normal or classical. I'm a fan of modern architecture, I would say. But when I look at the drawing here, I'm just hard pressed to find precedent. I'm hard pressed to warm up to it, frankly. The front visage of the house with the large sort of leaded window sort of is very jarring. It feels either commercial or almost like a church. And it's sort of hard to get around that. And then as you move around the house, there's just a number of elements that are either more commercial. It doesn't really read to me like a consistent, cohesive residential design. I'm just sorry to say. And that's my primary objection. I like classical and modern design, but what's suggested here to me is just, you said unique, it's just unusual. And to me, if we're going through a design process and discussing the merits of the design as it relates, yes, there is latitude, I think, in terms of diverse neighborhood, but this is, again, to me, outside the bounds of sort of what we see in residential design, the neighborhood itself, what you might expect. So that's it. Anyway, I would have hoped that the neighbors would have been more sensitive to what they were putting in the place of the house. I understand it's not historic. That doesn't mean it's not charming, and that doesn't mean it doesn't hold a place in the hearts of the neighbors of this place. But that doesn't, again, mean they can't build anything. But what's proposed again here to me is just very unusual and not pleasing to the eye. So I guess that's it.
And it's not in keeping with the houses around it in any way. And to look at the response that they gave today, where they are looking at houses on Pepper Drive and referring to them as being 300 feet away, when they're probably 30 houses away. It's basically if you fly across the houses. There is nothing at this end of Malvern that looks remotely like it. And our house is 1936. Tom Parker's house, I believe, is like 1920. The house that's owned by the foundation is older again, maybe 1925. The Campbell's house is early 30s. There are a multitude of homes that are old in this neighborhood, and they blend even though they're different.
Thank you. Sorry, we're past the 3 minutes, so sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Next up, Naveen.
Hey, Guido, it's Frank. Could we ask each speaker to state their address relative to the house that's in question tonight, 41 Marvin? Is that possible?
It's technically something people don't have to share, but if they want to, they're welcome to.
Yeah, that.
Yes, well said by the attorney. So if they would like to, it's of interest to the commission to understand how close the individuals are that are speaking about the house, because at our last meeting we had people that were blocks and blocks away that don't have to deal with this every day. So it's useful for us, but not necessary if people don't want to disclose their address. Thank you.
We're at 24 Marvin. We're not directly across, but I can see the house directly out of my study window here. That's right here. So
We're the white picket fence.
we're one house over, but directly, but across. Thank you.
Thank you.
Naveen?
Yeah, hi. So this is Naveen Agarwal. I am at 50 Marvin. So we are the corner lot in that, in that corner space. So I think we generally feel that the architects could have done quite a bit more. We felt that the last meeting that happened, and we have shared it in the comments, was really productive and useful. And we felt that there was a good kind of overall spirit in terms of where we could take this design. We really want our neighbors to have a house and build it as fast as we can. We wouldn't want them to like be held on, but we generally feel that the professionals here, the architects, have a huge responsibility on perhaps not getting them right from the very onset. But even through this review process, I mean, the changes they've come back with are, I want to say, in the spirit, not done what we talked about last time. So we can go into little details of each and every design piece, but frankly, we just haven't moved the needle the way we thought it would be moved, because we would not be, I mean, for us, the happiest thing would be that the neighborhood comes back to harmony and we all have our neighbors to have a house that they can start building as soon as we can. So we just felt massively disappointed, and we feel that the architects hold a big part of accountability here in that framework. And I think also there was some discussions around race and stuff, and I'm of Southeast Asian, I'm Indian, and I think I said this in my letter, we feel that the neighborhood here has always treated my kids, myself, our family, as pretty much a part of our overall neighborhood, and we have felt really blessed to have such neighbors. And I'm so sad to see that Pandyas are feeling somewhat different. And if there's anything we can do to fix it, is to get them to get their house going fast. But the amount of changes that have been done and how they have been done seem extremely technical. And frankly, the house itself plus the ADU will be, a massive structure, which probably is better for a 2x the size of the lot than the lot exists. So architects should have advised their clients better.
And next up, Tom's iPhone. That's what it's listed on the screen.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so contrary to the previous speakers, I have lived in Los Altos for almost 50 years. I started here in 1973. And I've seen many changes in neighborhoods, both north and south in Los Altos. And I can honestly appreciate the architect's viewpoint that sometimes uniqueness is a blessing. I have reviewed the current house, the neighborhood, and the plans that they've altered several times to meet the commissioner's desires. And I find that the treatment of the space, light, and color are wonderful. I think that it would be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. I think that living in the past sometimes can put blinders on people. And I think you need to open up your eyes to the fact that this is a beautiful structure. And I think it would add a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. And so that's really all I have to say. I fully support the Pandya's view. And I would love to see this house being built sometime in their lifetime, because they've waited 2 years already. And I think it's upsetting and dismaying to me that this process has dragged on for so long. So thank you for allowing me the time to speak.
Great, thank you, Tom. And next up, Michael Berner, is that how you say it?
Yes. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I lived in Los Altos since 2009. I built the house on 132 Hawthorne, and that was something we built in 2009. It's a beautiful home, and went through the process. And when Hadel was telling me she was going to build this house, I told her, it's a pretty simple process. It's unfortunately my guidance on that has turned out to be shockingly wrong. I understand why, of course, after having listened to these hearings and looked at the process that she's been going through, and that all of the folks here have been going through to figure out the right thing for both the owner and the city. I think I actually prefer the prior renditions, but that's just my personal preference and taste. It doesn't really matter. I like the style of this home, and that is a gorgeous lot. I remember walking past it with every day my daughters and I would walk past it from when they were, just in preschool the whole way through school. So it's a very memorable lot. And I think that what they're doing is trying to balance all of the different things required to have a beautiful home that fits their dream, as has been said, as well as something that fits into the neighborhood. And I know they've made, some folks feel like they haven't made tremendous accommodations. I feel like they have made tremendous accommodations. And I know that this has been one of the biggest projects that Hadel and her husband have been working on over the last many years. So I find the home to be delightful. I think the changes do fit to the spirit of what I heard last time. I know there's differences on that, but that's my recollection. And I think it would add a tremendous amount. The diversity of the neighborhood doesn't have, to my recollection, does not have such a fantastically designed modern home like that, but it has a great variety of homes on it. Anything from Mediterranean homes to more classical homes to the home that you see on a lot now. So for what it's worth, I think it's a beautiful home, and I appreciate that you gave me the time to speak about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Jess.
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Naveen said. He's my husband. So from 50 Marvin Avenue. My one comment though I still have is when you're looking at the design, it's good to look at the full picture. So there's been sort of this side mention of an ADU. I know it's not really been discussed and maybe we can't discuss it, but when we're adding comments to the garage, potentially of changing the garage or the roof line there, I'd like to look at the whole picture, knowing that there's potentially going to be an ADU in that space as well, somewhere on that property, which I'm not sure where it's going to fit, but it just concerns me pieces together and how it's going to influence that really prominent corner lot that's super important to all of us neighbors.
Great. And next up, John Bear.
Okay, so I'm John Bear. I live at 55 Pepper Drive. I've lived here 25 years. We are 3 houses away from the subject property. We live in a house that's non-conforming. It's 37 feet tall, would never pass any design review guidelines today. That's not relevant. The house is 116 years old. It's allowed to be what it is, just as the existing house is allowed to be the way it is. I've got 5 points to make. Hopefully I can cover them all in the allotted time. Consultant nor staff has responded to the cultural significance issue raised by the external document, which was developed by the residents and provided by staff. That is a material omission. The criteria for the outside consultants determining the landmark status of this home is material different than what has been used in the past to determine landmark status and the historic integrity of the structure. And I'm now specifically referring to a recent addition to the landmark status homes on Grant. Regardless of those 2 former comments, this is not the forum that there should be a discussion about whether the house is historic or not. It belongs before the Historic Commission. So I don't understand why that has not occurred. It should be. It's a material omission. Number 4, and I think Commissioner Harding brought this up quite nicely. There has been a material mischaracterization of what this neighborhood really is. It's diverse character, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a distinct character in terms of the horizontal nature of the homes, the more classic architecture. We have storybook house, we have Tudor, we have Craftsman, we have a variety of forms to homes here. and none of that has been taken into account into the home nor into the planning. And despite what the architect has suggested, in fact, the design was already done, and then a historic assessment was undertaken. So there was no thought given to, you know, designing a house that really encompassed the nature and character of the neighborhood. Diverse character does not mean no character. It does not mean you can simply do anything. It means that you have a choice, a broader choice of styles, but there's still an issue of how do you make it compatible? And in that regard, unfortunately, this has failed. I outlined in my letter specifics around how this design has failed to meet the design review guidelines, as have others. So it's not simply people saying, I don't like it. They have given very specific reasons why this does not meet the design review guidelines. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris Casso?
Hi, yeah, my name's Chris Casso. I live at the 90 Marvin Avenue, adjacent to the subject property. Given my location, I see the property daily. Even though we live in a fairly diverse neighborhood of homes, the proposed design is still out of character with the neighborhood. You don't need to be an expert in architecture to realize that. I chuckle as I listen to the architect try to justify the unique character of the proposed house in this location. I think he needs to accept that sometimes you just get it wrong. I feel the design changes made as a result of the last design review only further degrade the aesthetics of this property. I ask the committee to carefully consider the feedback of the majority of immediate neighbors, as we will be forced to view this property for decades to come. If the owner truly wanted to be a good neighbor, as she stated earlier, she might try to understand why the majority of her immediate neighbors are still not in favor of this design. Simply read, understand, and respond to the intent of those letters we sent. A couple other things, as others stated. I'd like to understand that, I understand there's an ADU that's going to be built on the property. I would like to understand where the ADU would be situated on that property and how it would contribute to the bulk of the property. I also think there may be privacy concerns from the balcony into the property of to the east. The architect showed views from the balcony facing the west and south, but not to the east. And also, when considering new balconies, is noise pollution emanating from the balcony and its impact on adjacent neighbors considered as well? Thank you.
Great. And I've got some unidentified people. Last four of the phone number, 2031. Last four of the number 2031, or I'm moving on. Okay.
Hi, yes, this is, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great, thank you. Yeah, hi, my name is Patricia Forster, and I was actually born and raised in Los Altos and lived here many years. I've been in my current house. I live in South Los Altos for 30 years. And, you know, over the years I've lived here, I've seen homes in various neighborhoods in Los Altos that have been rebuilt with very different architecture styles and don't necessarily fit in with the quote unquote, you know, typical ranch style homes, but they fit in to the neighborhood. And, you know, we have a diverse community, and I believe that the proposed home actually is lovely, and I fully support that the design of this home moves forward. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. And next up, last four being 5678 of the phone number. 5678. Are you there? Okay. And Suzanne, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm having some connectivity issues, so this may fade in and out. I live at 90 Marvin Avenue, just kind of, I guess it's to the front of the house. I learned that this evening, and have lived there for over 20 years. I've listened to the applicant tonight say that their intent is to be a good neighbor, to listen to the neighbors, that they've patiently waited for over 2 years to get this project off the ground and built, that they are intent on building a structure that will blend into the neighborhood. I also listened to Mr. Saki, the architect, say that his design has been inspired by the ranch style that's prevalent throughout Los Altos, that he's drawing his inspiration using simple designs and low roof lines. And he is intent on not proposing a structure that's overbearing to the neighborhood. I look at the plans and I have to say that in the past 2 years, while the applicant has been patiently waiting, they really haven't been listening to what the neighbors have been saying. The neighbors that are surrounding the property have predominantly said that what has been proposed is does not fit into the neighborhood, and have asked for changes in a multitude of ways over the course of the past several years. All of these comments have pretty much gone unheard. The architect is claiming to be inspired by ranch style homes. There is nothing ranch style about this proposed home. It has got a gazillion different architectural styles sort of meshed into one. You've got vertical windows in the facade of the building and horizontal windows going on the garage. Yes, we live in a diverse character neighborhood, but that doesn't mean that you need to put all of that diversity into one structure, especially not on a structure that is so prominently located on the corner where everyone can see it. The south roof juts out kind of like something out of the Jetsons. It does not look like a simple ranch style home anywhere located in Los Altos. So I guess I'm just very disappointed at the end of the day that the architect has clearly missed the mark in terms of the inspiration, and that the applicants have been unable to listen or apply what they've heard towards a design that could be a little bit more harmonious with the neighborhood. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. And next up, last four, 0787. 0787. And the last one, 7178. 7178. Okay, and let me just double check, Chair Bishop. I just want to make sure I got everybody. So
Yes, please do that, Guido.
Dushyant, but I believe that's Hital's husband, so I'll skip him. Hital. Jess spoke. John Bear spoke.
Hey, Guido?
Yes.
There are 2 people who are texting me saying they want to talk. It's 0787 and 5678.
Oh, okay, because I did ask them. Okay, thank you. 0787, did you want to speak? Hello, are you there? Let me try to unmute them.
I'm
here.
There we go. Thank you. This is Bill Summers, and I live at 250 Marvin Avenue, and I've lived here since 1998, so that's 23 years or so. I drive by and walk by this house every day, often multiple times per day. It's a very diverse neighborhood. There's no doubt about that. I appreciate that the owners have taken the feedback from the August, I think it was, meeting and adjusted the design and multiple fashions as has been discussed tonight. I think they're really trying hard to work with the neighbors, even though they maybe don't feel that way. And I'll get to that in a second. It seems to me that the owners have exhibited the patience of Job during this process. All these reviews, design review meetings, and so forth over 2+ years. It's much more patience than I would have. For those of you who are against this house, I would caution you that if it were me and this were my property and it were delayed further, I would take advantage of SB 9 and divide this parcel in 2 and put 2 properties, plus I think 2 ADUs on each parcel. No one wants that. I certainly don't. And I don't think there would be any stopping them from doing that. The city learned that you can't fight these state regulations at 40 Main Street with SB 35, and I sure hope they don't fight it with this one too. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. And then 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, you need to unmute her. They can't unmute themselves.
Well, yeah, they can. They can. Let me think. 5, 6, 7, 8. Did you want to?
Hi, my name's Gretchen. Can everybody hear?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I apologize and I appreciate being a part of this. I live at 108 Marvin. So I'm also in residential real estate in Los Altos. I moved here from the East Coast. I lived in San Francisco prior to purchasing our home on Marvin Avenue in 2002. I think the design is acceptable. It's the taste of the owner, just as there are certain cottage style homes all throughout Los Altos that won't be here in the next 20, 25 years. I appreciate people saying that, their home was built, in 1937 and 1942 and, whatever. I mean, let's face it. I mean, new homes are being built all over this peninsula and the greater Bay Area. We have quarter-acre plus lots here, and this is, this could be a dream for many people to build the home that they want to have for the rest of their life. They want, these are dream. It's a dream. People have dreams. That's why they buy property and own land in order to be able to build what they want. So I have a problem with the fact that, people are trying to characterize, what this house should look like and this family, and it's their dream, it's their vision, and they're following the rules. And, I'm very, very upset that this has torn apart our street and our community and our neighborhood. And I think it's wrong. I think they've followed the guidelines. They've come up with a plan, and they should be able to build the house that they want. And that's it.
One more time, Chair. Susan, Levine, Michael, Jess. I believe that is everybody, Chair Bishop.
Okay, Guido, thank you. So before we close the section, I guess a question for the attorney. Is this where we do the rebuttal from, if they would like to have rebuttal from the owner architect, or do we close and then we'll ask if there was any rebuttal?
So the applicant gets a 5-minute rebuttal, and then the hearing is closed, and then it's your turn to ask questions and then deliberate.
Thank you. I thought that was correct. Okay, so thank you very much. So over to the owner architect. Given that we've heard the comments from the public, we give 5 minutes of rebuttal time if there's any rebuttal to be provided. And at the conclusion of that, I will close the public comment section of the meeting.
Yeah, I will do the rebuttal. Thank you so much. And I really, really appreciate every single person who has stayed this long on this call, every neighbor who has given their evening to this project and many evenings to this project, giving us comments and giving us their suggestions. We have read every comment. I have spreadsheet upon spreadsheet of every comment from every neighbor, peeling out what their actual suggestion is for us to change, and we've tried to change as much as we can, from the colors to the roof lines to the balconies to the fence. I feel like we've really tried everything in the book that we've tried to change. And that too has taken us a long time, and it costs us money every single time we make these changes. So we're not taking these changes lightly. All the changes cost us money. We redo the design, redo everything. It's not cheap. We're doing it again and again. We will not take it lightly. I do want everyone to understand that. Around the home's age and the home being historic or not, we've actually waited very patiently for that. The city's historic experts have spoken. We don't have much to say on that. the diverse character neighborhood, the guidelines are pretty clear in the Los Altos residential guidelines. I have read it multiple times myself. And it shows exactly what our street looks like today. Just look at 108 Marvin. Just look at 21 Marvin. Just look at 60 Marvin, 97 Pepper. These are all houses that are within a 2-minute walk to our house. And they're all very different. I don't know if you guys have Google Maps up, but just pull up 108 Marvin. It's a fantastic house with an adobe roof. Look at 97 Pepper, has a metal roof on it, and it looks completely different. Look at 80 Pepper, it's on the corner lot. It has a door that goes out on the corner. It's completely different than all other houses that are out there, and that's 2 houses away from me. And then 21 Marvin, my Red Butler house, I call it the Red Butler house, but it's the most beautiful house with a very, very tall entry feature and has a balcony jutting out right on top of Marvin Ave. And that's my next door neighbor. So I don't know what else we can show as pictures and houses that are so close to us. And just my house, current house, is so different than everyone's houses around us. So we don't know what else we can keep showing that our house is in a diverse character neighborhood. It is very different than some of the ranch houses that are around us. That's number one. Number two, yes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. There is no doubt about that. And we thought we were building the most simplest canvas that portrayed our oak trees. That was our goal. It was a very simple goal. I remember meeting Eugene the first time, and when I told him my goal is to build the best canvas for these amazing oak trees. I'm a tree hugger. I love trees. I really want these trees to be showcased on this house. And that's why we built the windows that are right behind these trees, so they would basically reflect the trees. The water feature in this house, the maze, I'm completely in love with the maze. I don't know if it's old or new. I just love it, and I bought the house for it. And I want to keep the maze, and I want to have that quirky maze there for hundreds of more years. And I want the house to reflect that nature of that trees, the maze, the brick. I have the koi pond. We just love our trees, and we love our backyard. And we're building this house to suit that. We have a teenager who is patiently waiting for last 4 years for her own bedroom and bathroom, and is sharing it with her 80-year-old grandfather, and has no space. And it's been heart-wrenching for me to tell her that we are working this process for the last 2 years. And all I have to say to my neighbors is to stop, just throwing stones on our design. We've done everything we could. All the pieces of advice we got from the commissioners on August 4th, we tried to cross every T, dot every I, and change it to make it one of the houses on the street. And I hope you guys feel that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So at this point, we will close the public comment section of the meeting. There'll be no more public comments this evening. So with that, we'll move into the commissioner discussion, and I'll open it up to the team. And I've been working through the same order all night. So Sam, would you like to kick this off?
Sam, you are muted.
Sam?
Yeah,
did you hear? Yeah,
I
so,
understand the emotion.
If you could just start, yeah,
Sorry.
thank you.
I understand the emotion of both the owner and the architect, that this was your dream house, But I'm in agreement with the majority of your neighbors, is it just plain doesn't fit. And so I understand that, you know, people have made accommodations for things, but it just, in my view, doesn't fit. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Sam. David?
Okay, I'm going to start out by saying I do not mean to offend anyone in my comments, but let's go back to the design guidelines. We're in a diverse character neighborhood, which means good neighbor design has its own design integrity, which means you can build a Craftsman, you could build a mid-century modern, you could build a teepee as long as it fit within guidelines. You have to have similar design elements, materials, and scale found in the neighborhood. There's a lot of different houses in the neighborhood. I look immediately to the left of the property at 21 Marvin. Some comments were made about the neighborhood is very much a horizontal neighborhood. 21 Marvin is a tall and narrow house. A tall and narrow house. The house in question currently exists at 31.5 feet. The applicant has proposed a home that's 25 feet. They have proposed a modern home. It fits within the neighborhood as a diverse character neighborhood. It may not be the style that the neighbors want, but the neighbors don't own the property. The neighbors can't dictate, you must build it this way or we're going to shut you down. That's sort of a NIMBY attitude that we've seen more and more recently in building homes in Los Altos. And frankly, it is appalling. The Pandias have gone, in my estimate, overboard to listen to the neighbors. But the fact of the matter is, it's their own house. They have designed it to fit within a diverse character neighborhood. Yes, it is a very modern home. You go one full block down on Marvin, there are 4 on the other side of, I forget the name of the street, Hillview or whatnot, that are modern homes that are much bigger in scale and scope than this. This house is actually smaller in mass and bulk than the current home, from roof line to side. You know, there's been issues of, okay, light and fencing and setbacks and all these little things trying to throw off the neighbors. It almost appears as if we're just going to try to continue to make them redesign until they give up. And that's sad. At the end of the day, I think it is not a design I would build, but it is a design that they can build. It fits within a diverse character neighborhood. The neighbors have tried to work with the existing, neighbors. I put the foot on, or, shoe on the other foot. If you were the Pandias trying to build this home and all the neighbors didn't want, I think the neighbors don't want anything that's a modern home. It wants to be a historical house. It's not. It's been outlaid that with 2 years of going through the process. It just is got to be frustrating to them. And it's sad, I look at the complaints or the discussion in regards to this. And again, I don't mean to offend anyone, but come on, folks. These are your neighbors. They want to work and live in your neighborhood, and you're fighting them foot and tooth every step of the way. It is not the style. You may not agree with the style of the house, but that's not your decision. They can build what they want as long as it meets the guidelines of the city requirements. And I think this does. And I think they've done a lot. I like the new with the different color that, to me, reduces the look and appearance of size and bulk with the things that they've done, with the brickwork, with the different colors on the lower elevation, the removal of some of the windows, the light issue, the reduction in size and scope of the deck. They've met most of our requirements to what we've asked them to do. And for us to say no, we have to go back with a different iteration because, you know, whatnot. If, let's say we want to increase, you know, the roof line's not right. Well, what are you going to do to make it similar to what it is? And increase the roof line by a higher pitch to make it 4 feet bigger? That's going to make it look much more massive and larger in scale. So, you know, I'm kind of on a soapbox here, but I fully support the project as it is outlined according to the findings and conditions of the property. Thank you.
Okay, David, thank you. Michael?
Okay. Yeah, I think this is a very difficult situation. Again, I understand from both sides, you know, the owner and architect, and from the neighbors. As an architect, I've seen this a lot on both sides. And design is very subjective. And I know there's a guideline, and there are also the character of the neighborhood, the diversify. So it's all about finding a balance. This is your house, but also there are neighbors you know surrounding you. So there should be a balance. You know, I work and live on, you know, under this kind of situation, you know, very often, and just I have to say subjective and need to be balanced. Just from the basic side, you know, according to our commissioner's comments from the last meeting, you know, my feeling when I first see the revised drawing, I don't see any obvious changes. I think the changes from the comments are very minimum. I have to look carefully to look it over to find the changes. So basically overall, I know so of course I know there's some changes after I find, you know, all these changes and look through the drawing closely. There are a few changes here and very minor, but overall I don't see any obvious changes. So I don't support this project at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, that's interesting. There's only 4 of us tonight. So we've, I'm on the fence on this, like I was actually at our last meeting. I agree with Michael, not all the changes are obvious and not all the changes we requested were made, but they have made an effort to actually move the project forward. And I also agree with David in that they have met all the guidelines and the code requirements to actually build this house, and it is their house. So I sit on the fence on this. And, you know, to be honest with you, coming into the meeting, I was on the no side. And I've listened to everyone tonight, and I've come more to a midpoint myself. So we're kind of in a lock here. The way I see it is we may end up with, you know, 2 yeses and 2 nos, or 3 nos. So I'd like to I'd like to hear a little bit more from the commissioners before I make at least my decision, or if anyone has an opportunity to lean one way further or not, and then try to move forward. The commission's only seen this project over the last couple of months, right? August 4th was the first time that we've seen it. We've seen the new set of drawings tonight. So we haven't been involved over the last 2 years. We've been involved for a fairly short period of time. And, you know, it's up to us to make a decision on this, or yes, no, or I guess we can also, Guido, we can also, if we end up in a lock here, we push it to the council and let them make a decision on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, if it's a 2-2, it's either a 2-2 and you give very, very specific instruction to the applicant potentially for a third hearing, or it's a 2-2 and then the applicant can potentially appeal to council. So it kind of depends on how what the direction of the DRC is and what the applicant wants to do. So.
Okay.
But
All right. Thanks.
But a 2-2 vote is not a approval or denial of the DRC. So,
Yeah.
No, understood.
Chair Bishop, if I could chime in.
Understood.
Chair Bishop, this is Eric Ramakrishnan with the City Attorney's Office. I just want to point out, so first of all, you know, to reiterate what Guido said, 2-2 is not an approval. There is the option of, if you can propose very specific changes to the project as conditions of approval that would change someone's mind, that is another option. It doesn't have to be yes or no. If the decision is going to be a denial, we've heard people on both sides tonight talk about due process. Due process entails making findings. So if the decision is going to be a denial, the commissioners need to get into the record. They need to identify what finding or findings they cannot make and identify the facts that support their decision on that finding or findings.
That makes sense. So that would be in our motion then if we did a denial, correct?
I would encourage you to have some discussion about, so Chair Bishop, you've asked the commissioners to keep talking because you haven't quite made up your mind. Perhaps,
that's correct. Yeah.
Perhaps people who have decided against could identify the findings or findings that they're having difficulty with and identify the reasons for that. And maybe they can talk about whether those reasons could be addressed through a condition of approval or not.
Oh, I think that's fair. Okay, let's try that. So thank you. Sam, would you like to identify the reasons why you feel so strongly, and you're probably the strongest no here. So could you articulate that for us for the record, please?
Yeah, and mine is a very simple and general objection that a design could have been done that did bring into the design the features that allow the neighbors to feel like they were included in the process. I specifically said last time to Gene is that I didn't have a specific thing that I would recommend, but that he, in his knowledge and experience, may be able to do that. So I'm not in the place where I want to say the roof should be this and something else should be that. It's much like several of the neighbors pretty eloquently, I believe, have stated, those neighbors that look at the house. Many of the neighbors and many of the people who spoke aren't even on the street or don't drive by it every day. So that's, if I were to recommend, I would say, talk to the neighbors, find out what kind of a structure might be appropriate and take it from there.
Okay, Commissioner Harding, if I may, are you able to point to one of the specific findings that's in the staff report that you feel that the project doesn't comply with and articulate the reasons for that?
That I don't agree with one of the findings? Is that what's being asked?
So you're required to make your decision based upon the findings. So if you're voting no, that means that you've looked at the 6 findings that are in the staff report. You've identified a finding that you can't make, and you have a factual reason for that.
Okay.
So would it be helpful if I read through that
Yeah,
part of the staff report?
It would.
All right. So the first finding is that the proposed structure complies with all provisions of this chapter, referring to the R1 chapter of the code, including setbacks, height restrictions, building coverage, lot area, etc. The second one is that with the incorporation of conditions of approval, the height, elevations, and placement on the site of the proposed structure when considered with reference to the nature and location of residential structures on adjacent lots will avoid unreasonable inferences with views and privacy, and will consider the topographic and geologic constraints imposed by particular building site conditions. So A is if you think it doesn't comply with any of the objective standards that are in the R1 part of the code, your finding would be on that basis. Staff has already said it complies. B is you're focused on views, privacy, geologic constraints. The third one, the natural landscape will be preserved insofar as practicable by minimizing tree and soil removal, grade changes, and shall be minimized and will be in keeping with the general appearance of neighboring developed areas. So C is regarding the grading that would be required. D, the orientation of the proposed structure in relation to the immediate neighborhood will minimize the perception of excessive bulk or mass. So D refers to bulk or mass. E, general architectural considerations, including the character, style, scale, and quality of the design, the architectural relationship with the site and other buildings, building materials, and similar elements have been incorporated to ensure compatibility of the development with its design concept and the character of adjacent buildings. So E is about compatibility with adjacent buildings. F, the proposed structure has been designed to follow the natural contours of the site with minimal grading, minimum impervious cover, and maximum erosion protection. So again, kind of expanding on the grading finding earlier. And lastly is the CEQA finding. And so if there's one of those that,
yeah,
if there's one,
let's see, it's small, but I think it's E. That is the really, to call it simply, it's the look. And I would like the architectural considerations to be more in line with the existing historical nature of the project. Can I be as simple as that in saying it?
Is there anything you can be more specific about? That would be helpful.
That it maintain the roof style and dormers that are part of the existing structure, because that is the most, that's the thing that really sticks out, that I think is the primary feeling of how the house looks, is the roof shape and the dormers.
And so in terms of elements have been incorporated to ensure compatibility of the development with its design concept and with the character of adjacent buildings, are you focusing on the with the design concept portion or the character of adjacent buildings portion?
Character of adjacent buildings.
Okay, so you feel that the roof elements are out of character with adjacent buildings because it doesn't keep its existing historic?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you both for that. So David, I'm going to pass by you for a minute here. And Michael, did you have something that you could articulate as to why specifically that you would vote no?
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to talk about the finding, more related to the finding, or just more specific?
Both, if you could.
Okay.
Yeah, ultimately the commission's decision has to be based on the findings. So.
Okay. All right. So let me talk about the specifics from last time. We talk about dropping the play height. I believe a lot of several items from last meeting's comments are, even though it's about the play height, the balcony, and all that stuff, but it's all related to the bulkiness and the bulk and the massing of the house. So specifically, the play height, we asked them to drop the 6 to 12 inches. But I only find like one location, reduced by 3 inches. And then now the introduction, the addition of new material, even more material, I mean, the original design has several material already. I mean, I don't mind, you know, a number of different material to break up the massing. But, you know, with the addition of the brick and the color of the brick, you know, it's right now it's a paver brick and now being introduced to be part of the wall veneer, and also the white picket fence. I think this house has become a mixture of different type of material. Some may be traditional, some may be modern, and some may be neutral. So that's why, as an architect, I think that the character, I mean, what's a style? This style, the essence of style has been lost. And the architect mentioned about range style, and I think there's someone mentioned about cottage too. I mean, this certainly doesn't look like any cottage or range to me. But I believe the main issue, I mean, the primary issue here, I mean, those I talk about just the detail and the material. But the main one is that the roof form, and that's, you know, contributing to the bulk and mass, is the roof form. It's a very shallow roof slope. So the roof is, you don't see too much of the roof surface or area. And so that brings me to relate to this item to the finding. So finding D, to minimize the perception of excessive bulk and mass. So the roof form, it's actually minimal roof area, and which result into the large wall plan. And I know some of the neighbors say this looks like a commercial building. That's why it looks like some commercial building. So going back to the finding, E, you know, the character of the adjacent buildings. The character of adjacent building are residential. Doesn't matter if it's built 30, 40, 50 years ago. It doesn't matter if it's a Spanish, you know, with a 4-12 pitch or 6-12. They all have that residential character. You know, I think right now we're talking about the character. So that's why, you know, I asked Eugene about how he come up with the design idea and style initially. I want to understand more about how this design is coming from. So, you know, I can relate all this back to the D and E, the bulk and mass of the house and the character of the house. I don't mind, I mean, I don't really care about how it relates to the historical elements or character of the original house. But, you know, aside from the historical, this one doesn't look like a residential. I mean, I design both modern contemporary homes and traditional home. But this one, the roof form and everything, it's not related to any of the neighborhood's character because of the roof form and roof slope and roof pitch and everything. And, you know, in addition to all the minor or secondary elements I mentioned.
So Commissioner Ma,
so Michael, sorry, just a minute. Could we engage you and I a little bit in a conversation here?
Sure,
Michael?
sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this is where I had the trouble too, quite honestly, which is if the plate heights were dropped and we had a little bit more pitch in the roof, right? I mean, and still keeping within the height restrictions of what we can build in Los Altos, you feel that a combination perhaps of those two, you could keep a modern look to the house, but you could make it more of a residential look than a commercial look. Did I read you correctly there? I think I did.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a little bit commercial, but that's not my primary concern. I mean, some modern house,
That's the bulk and mass, so that it's all wall and not a lot of roof. No, yes, yeah. No. So just trying to characterize it right, and I agree with you on that, by the way. And you know, one of the things that they didn't touch from, or well, two of the things, right, on the comments. I'll just echo back on both of them, which was kind of my problem with the design. They didn't do anything with the roof. And although they dropped the plate height, it was only in one place and it was by 3 inches, where we were looking
Yes.
for a half a foot to a foot, you know, per level of the house. So we were kind of ignored there, quite honestly. And they tried to keep the design as it was. I mean, that's what I felt actually.
Yes,
when I
yes,
looked through the new set of
yeah,
plans.
I feel the same too.
Yeah.
Let me, sorry, Chair. Let me add. So
Yeah, please. Yes,
the overall, the height. I mean, I don't see any, the overall, the height is reduced. You know, that's, I think that's another, you know, factor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So the way I see this is, you know, hate to send them back with another set of changes, but you know, this could go like 2 ways. I say no, also, and then there's 3 no's tonight, or you and I keep talking, and Sam, welcome to join us, and David too. If we can improve the design with more, even if we echo back to the same set of comments that we made last time, which I just discussed. And to a certain extent, I agree with you, Michael, that they did change some of the cosmetics of the house, if you will, colors and so forth, that actually made it even more of a composite than it needed to be. So it's a little too busy for me, if that resonates with you.
Yes.
That if we could get back to a little something a little bit more simple, I think I could be sold on this thing. But it was that we weren't listened to as far as nature of height of wall and pitch of roof, which are pretty basic concepts in any house design. I think that's where I was troubled.
And Chair Bishop, if I may ask.
Yes, please.
You know, one option is, well, obviously you could approve, you could deny, you could send back another time. If there's very specific guidance that you can give that can be encapsulated as a condition of approval, and I don't know if there is, but I'm hearing very specific comments about the plate height is too tall, it should be this tall instead. If you're able to give that specific guidance, another option would be to just make those conditions of approval and then approve subject to those conditions.
Agree, and that's where I'm trying to go with this conversation. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. But we did that last time. We gave them specific reductions in the plate height, and they didn't do what we asked. And we asked them to address the roof, and they didn't do that either. So.
And I appreciate that. What I'm trying to suggest is that last time there were some specific comments and there were some less specific comments, and so you sent it back. If you are able to make all of your comments very specific, you could just say it shall be this way as a condition of approval, rather than sending it back to be redesigned. So that's the nuance I'm suggesting.
Understood. Thank you. And hey, David, can I drag you back into the conversation where you were on the yes side? Do you feel that there? I mean, I'd like to get this approved for them too. Do you feel that there's room that we could make some continued improvements here to try to get this thing moved forward with 3 of us? Where are you on that?
Well, my whole thing is, I think they've done a lot to make it work. And yes, you know, when we keep doing stuff and sending it back and you know, making suggestions, some of our suggestions were very, very broad. And it's like, well, how do you make a modern home look like it was built in 1905? That was some of the suggestions.
Right. I don't think that's what I'm asking, though.
Yeah,
right.
no,
I
but,
agree.
But the fact of the matter is, it's a diverse character neighborhood. The design has its own design integrity, while incorporating some design elements and materials and scale found in the neighborhood. And I think on this first one, to me, it is acceptable for what they have done. And more importantly, I think, you know, at some point, and maybe we're at that point where we go back and say, okay, we will approve it if you drop the plate heights 5 inches or 6 inches or whatever. But in doing that, we don't, I mean, is that just to get a number out there that we have in the past said, yeah, this is acceptable? Or is it really the design element that needs to be done where we're going to drop a house that's at 25 feet, 2 feet under the cap, to 24.5 feet? Is that really going to make or break this house? And is it really going to make the owners of the house who are building this happy? And is it really going to make the neighbors happy? And I frankly feel, and this is just my own opinion, that any sort of modern home in that neighborhood, in that location, is unacceptable to the neighbors who have spoken. And that's just my own opinion, but based on, you know, what has been going on, that seems to be the case, because you can't make a new home a home that was built in 1910 or 1905 or 1890 or whatnot. And obviously you can't rebuild it exactly as it is, because it wouldn't fit the current design guidelines. So I'm having a problem. At what point do we, you know, cut this and say this is okay? It's not ideal for anyone, but is doing an iteration to the nth degree substantially going to change the look and feel of the house at this point?
So may I speak again?
No, could I Sam?
Yep.
Could I? Yeah, I'll come back to you if that's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sure, of course. So David, what I'm trying to do here is to see if we can wrap this up. And I think Michael, as the architect that's on the commission with us tonight,
correct.
I think what he is trying to suggest, and it's something I brought up in the last meeting too, if I'm not trying to make the building shorter, the building could come out the same height, or it could even be a little bit taller doing this, but you'll end up with less wall and more roof. And in doing so, it will make it look, it will still have a modern look, but proportionally it will have, I believe, less bulk and mass, but I'll defer to Michael on that. And it will look more horizontal and residential rather than vertical. I think that's where he was trying to go. And if we can give him that opportunity and get Michael to come around with something that the architect could implement to actually improve the design and get Michael to say yes, I think we may be able to get this done tonight. That's what I'm trying to achieve here. So before I go to Sam, what I would like to do is I would like to go to Michael. And Michael, could you offer up something, please, to the four of us?
Okay, I just want to make suggestion a few area. I mean, where you were talking, I was start thinking about what's the easiest way to make this work. And I mean, of course, it's just my opinion. I mean, you guys can chime into it. One is we talking about lower the entire plate. Let's say second floor, because I found that the ground floor, the floor to ceiling, and then second floor to ceiling. The second floor still have a 9-foot ceiling plate height. So a lot of houses, new second floor, as we know, we approve all the second floor. Most of them are around 8 to 8'6" for the second floor
Correct.
plate height. Yeah, this one has
Correct.
a 9, so obviously there's a room. Second, I think most of the listen to all these comments, the less wall. Okay, so when you see less wall from the street side, the west elevation and south elevation, that's where most of the neighbor are gonna see this house. So the high window, again, is the high window. The high window on the south, I understand they eliminate one or two of them, but there's still a large area of high window. I guess it's just right around the balcony, above the patio door. So those, instead of a window, maybe we can make it into the wall, even roof area. And then on the west elevation, there's also high window, second floor, but It's the windows all the way to the underside of the roof. And then the last one is the roof. So instead of the high window, maybe they can bring down the roof, either as a slope down, or it's a whatever the form of the roof. And then the one sticking out above the balcony, if that, I know they already cut back a couple feet, but that one is increasing the massing. I mean, I know we prefer roof area, but that one is actually sticking out and has a perception of the massing on the second floor, on the top. So if we can focus on this few area, I believe that massing and the bulk can be improved, and while still keeping some, the general character of the design.
Commissioner Bishop, or Chair Bishop, can I make just a comment?
Yes, David, please.
Yeah, okay. So we're talking about these changes to the property in the appearance of the house from the front. It appears with the balcony or the windows, et cetera, et cetera. If we're going based on those considerations, I spent a lot of time there today in the front neighbors of the neighbors immediately across the street. And I'd just like to go through the property at 60 Marvin, which is set far back, doesn't see the house except for a room on top of the garage. So unless you're out front, out towards the street, they actually don't see the house because of the foliage and how their house is set back. The house at 70 Marvin, directly across the street, more towards the south side of the property, doesn't see the house at all because of their trees and where their house is sitting. Now the house at 44 Marvin does see the house directly across the street, but they have a large oak tree. So if you're, and I can't verify this, but if you're sitting in rooms, in some of those rooms there, you might be able to sit in a dining room or a bedroom or something like that and look out and see the house. All the other properties that surround it don't see the house from their house. And given that they're putting trees and all of that to reduce the effect of the house, that's where I'm coming from as to these different iterations of going through may not be necessary because it doesn't provide privacy issues or anything like that relative to the immediate neighbors. And so, that's where kind of a concern comes, is that we're potentially delaying this, and we want, by the way, we want to get this right.
We do.
We want to get it right, but are we over analyzing something to where we don't need to? I mean, I literally stood in the driveways of each of those properties and did sight lines, and you really don't see the house except maybe from one room from a distance in each of those properties. Whereas if you look at 21 Marvin, there is no foliage in the front of that house. It's a very vertical house. It has a patio on the top, and it looks out across everybody. But no one has mentioned that, and it's not a concern. Yet this house that we're looking at right now, we have this huge concern in regards to this, and it could be a very valid concern, but I just don't see it. And maybe, other commissioners can speak to this and sway me or whatnot, but I just don't see the need to further this out when it seems like we have a fairly good not perfect, solution that meets all the needs of everybody, given what the constraints are. And that's assuming that people just aren't opposed to a modern home in their neighborhood.
Okay, so thank you. The only thing, two things I would echo back on that is, like I said earlier, this is only the second time that we have seen this. It's not that we have delayed anything, I'll point that out. And our function here is to try to get the right design on the right lot. And if some of us feel we could still improve this with a set of comments that get attached to it with an approval or another iteration, I don't think is unreasonable, quite honestly. That's point one. Point two, it may be true that each one of these homes that you've mentioned and addresses, you know, aren't necessarily directly viewing this property, but this does sit on the corner and everyone in the neighborhood walks by it. We've heard that multiple times tonight, and everybody in the neighborhood drives by it. And so trying to get it as correct as we can get it is our function, I think is worthy of a little more discussion before just saying yes or no. So that's kind of my position on that. And I do appreciate what you said, and hopefully you understand what I'm trying to suggest here as well.
No, I agree. We want to get it right, but to what? I mean, how do we define what is right when it appears?
Well, as close as we can come. It's a commission of four, right?
Yeah.
So we're not perfect either, but if we can improve it, we should try. And I think this discussion, that's what this part of the meeting tries to do, right? Is we hear each other out and we feed off each other's ideas and see if we can bring this to a conclusion. So what we have, the way I see it, and I still haven't forgotten Sam. The way I see it,
thank you.
If you bet, if there's a way we can bring Michael to something that he would agree to, may be the way to actually succeed here, and that's what I'm still trying to do. So, okay. So Sam, did you want to? Maybe this is a good point, Michael. I know you're probably working with a pencil, trying to come up with a solution to this. Sam, did you want to add something right here?
Yes, I do. So David's time spent on the street and considering sitting in living rooms and so forth, I think your comments about people passing by, that's the issue. It's not whether you can see some element of the house from, you know, your own yard or your own home. It's that the building that is there creates something that is special. And that is what the neighbors came to the area for in many cases, and that's what they're looking for, is some recognition of that special character. Now, if I owned the house and Gene was my architect, I might say something like, I want to have a better house here because you know, my family's growing, but I want it to be integrated in the nature of the existing structure in some ways. What can you do? So I think what the situation is in all of the cases that we have is that someone has a dream house, and I understand that, but the dream house might not be the right dream house for that place. That's my position.
Right, and I understand that. So thank you for that. Okay, Michael, and any thoughts here to try to improve, make a recommendation, come around to a yes, or where are you?
You know,
how can you help us? Yeah.
I don't want to. I mean, there's several. You know, design is comprised of many elements altogether, right? It's difficult to say you make this and that will make it right. So I think I just mentioned it, but I want to leave that, still leave that to the architect. And maybe we can have the owner architect talk about if they want us to, you know, give them a condition, you know, by recommending some condition, and we can approve, or they want to go back to the drawing board. I'm more hesitant to design, you know, put more design for the applicants and the architect. But I think Eugene, back to the Eugene, that's why I asked him that question before. I mean, he has designed, many houses here. He knows that what we're looking for. And I'm actually kind of surprised that this is the second time that I'm not sure if this is the applicants, the owners' criteria or somehow, because after 2 months and this is just some cosmetic and minimal changes. That's why I'm not sure if Eugene want to talk a little bit more. I mean, we want to get this one, going, and hopefully we can approve this one soon. But at the same time, I don't know if there's any difficulty from his side or how he's try to deal with the all the conditional comments here.
Okay, so again, I was looking back. Thank you, Michael. I was looking back to the list of, I had 6 points here of what we had asked the architect to address, and some of them were not addressed in our list. Maybe what we should do is stay with our list of these 6 points, some of which he's addressed, some of which he has not, and ask him to address the ones that have not been addressed with another version to come back around as a set of improvements. And I agree, I don't necessarily want to do the design either. It's not my job, but I think it can be improved. That's why I said I was on the fence, and I think I could come around to the yes side with some changes and improvements that I think that the owner would enjoy as well as the neighbors would enjoy. And I think that's the function of what we try to perform here is a team to bring a better house to the lot. So I mean, we can, not that I'm doing this yet, but we can ask the architect a question. He's still there. But I think you raised the points, right? That the plate heights, why did he just basically placate us on that and move one small area 3 inches? Why didn't we address the roof pitches? And is there a way that he could work with us to try to bring this thing so we all end up with a bit better of a product? I mean, we can ask him a question, is that something that he's willing to do to try to get this thing move forward, or we may end with 3 no's tonight, so would you like me to ask Eugene to speak, Michael?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Want to do that? So Guido, if Eugene is still there, could we bring him back on the phone? He's listened to really kind of where we are. I'm the one that's probably, and Michael too. I think you got to persuade both of us a little bit more with what we asked you to do versus what we saw in this iteration. And is this something that you can help us with? Please.
So Chair Bishop, if I could ask a question, are there specifics in the 6 items that we originally sent back? I mean, obviously, item 3, reduce visual impact of garage, they can't do because of the legal non-conforming nature of the garage. So that one's, nothing can be done there. I mean, is the 2nd story deck acceptable to you guys? Are the plate heights, maybe go through line item.
That's a good idea. Why don't we go through the 6 points, since I have them written out right here. And the 4 of us can discuss those, and Eugene can listen as we go through them. So one I had was reduce the size of the 2nd story deck. And I heard through the commentary it was 280 square feet. Now it's 155. And, I wondered how that actually happened, if the deck's still the same size, but they turned part of that into a garden. I'm not exactly sure. That's point 1. So just hold on, I'll go through the 6. Point 2 was reduce the wall plate height 6 to 12 inches. Again, we were somewhat, ignored there. Reduce the impact of the garage, and although we just said that we couldn't do anything, there are ways to do that even without a variance. You just don't have to change the whole build, more than 50% of the building, or get a variance. 4, reduce the roof overhangs, and I guess that was done. Someone kept saying 2 feet, but I had 11 foot versus 9'6". And to me, that's what, 1.5 feet, not 2 feet, but whatever, that's a detail. Reduce the size of the tall 2nd floor windows. Michael brought that up again, some of which they addressed, but not all of it. And then make the roof pitches you know, with a bit more pitch so it integrates more into the neighborhood. Those were the 6 points that I had. They addressed some, not fully, some they didn't address at all, which brings us to the second meeting and the second set of plans that we're looking at. And I felt we weren't totally listened to, quite honestly.
So
that's just my thoughts.
Chairman Bishop, so
yes.
Again, I am not as technical as you all are. I'm not an architect. I'm let me call myself an aesthetic instead of an architect. So to me, the look and the feel and the consideration of those things is the most important thing. So wall heights and balconies and so forth really are not what is driving, I think, the discussion. That's what I think. I think if we ask the owner and Jane to say, if you had had a different direction on this property that took into effect the historic nature, what would you design for a house here? I mean, so
right.
that's.
I don't think they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go back to that point, Sam. I mean, they've been through 2 years and numerous sets of drawings. I mean, I think we're pretty close with what we have to what's going to get built here. So I don't think that's going to happen, quite honestly. I think, you know, if that's how you feel, then you'll probably keep your no, and we'll move forward with something similar to what's there.
I don't
but what
feel
I'm trying to say is,
I don't feel like my comments before and even today were properly considered, and I consider them a rebuff for not doing so.
Okay, that's fair. Okay, I hear you. So again, I'm just going to go back. I'm going back through. So those are the 6 points. I'm going to go through the list to see if we can come any closer here as a team. So David, you heard the 6 points. I know you said you felt that we were probably, you know, over fine tuning this. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's ample room to improve this. What do you feel like after I went through the list where things were not addressed that we asked to be addressed?
Yeah. So I'll go quickly through it. So reduce size of second story deck. They did nothing on it as far as the physical size of it. They reduced the usage size of it for people walking, and then they used the remainder of it to be a garden. And what I think, and the reasoning is, that's a west side facing balcony that provides coverage for the patio down below, and to have it out as far as they can provide shade, cooling, and all of that for the first floor. That's my own belief of what they did. They satisfied my looking at that in the fact that it's not going to be a big party deck, even though it's in the front yard, and it doesn't, to that extent, is not as important if it was a backyard deck. I don't know if you guys noticed, but 21 Marvin has a big patio deck on the backside of their property. It's got a big umbrella out there and seating and all that. It's not anywhere near the size of this, but it is in the backyard. And so I could see why they did that. I see them making a modification to reduce the number of potential people on that front patio, even though it's not a private space. I don't see that as a privacy concern. And I also see the garden area as something that will split and make the mass and bulk less so because of the foliage and that type of thing that goes in. You know, someone had mentioned 465 First Street. We have that. I work in that building. We have a green space on our patio upstairs, and it's lovely. We could have probably had more space out there, but we don't. The wall plates, I think that's subjective relative to, is it really going to be a huge difference of 3 inches to 6 inches where we've approved on first floor wall plates up to 10 feet and second plate at 9 feet on various different buildings or, you know, properties that we've had. And so, yes, they only reduced it 3 inches, and maybe they could do more that might make more sense. But is 3 inches or 6 inches at this point going to be enough to make a visual difference to what they're doing? And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think if we approve it based on a finding of making that, I would be in favor of seeing what that looks like out the back end versus just making it a finder. Reduce the roof overhang, they dropped it a couple of feet. I think, again, it's on the west side that I'm more looking at. And, you know, they reduced that a little. I think that looks fine. The tall second floor windows, they got rid of a couple of the bedroom. I think that was second story. That might be something to do. Roof pitches, I think, you know, most modern contemporary homes have more of a flat roof. And so I don't see making a higher pitch roof, you know, blending that in will have enough of an effect in reducing the appearance of mass and bulk. I think the different coloration and the bricks and taking some of the windows out, for me, makes that okay. But that's, you know, the last two I think would be things to look at, and possibly the wall plates. But those are the items that I would look at.
Okay, well, thank you, David. Michael, you've been very quiet.
Yeah, because I've been listening and thinking, you know, I'm thinking like, what if this is a modern, like ultra modern with a flat roof, boxy modern house? What would be our reaction, the neighbor's reaction?
Yeah.
Is that going to be better or is it going to be worse?
I think the neighbors have answered that.
Yeah, but we go back to the character, compatibility, you know, the guidelines, you know, the basic principle, you know, our DRC, the basic principle of a design review commission, to follow the guideline, the characters, you know, neighborhood compatibility, right?
Correct, and it's a diverse character neighborhood that has its own design integrity while incorporating some design elements, materials, and scale found in the neighborhood. It doesn't duplicate or say you only can do that in that neighborhood. It says, in my mind, it says, let's try to take the best of that with our own desires and create something new.
Yeah, I'm not against the style. I believe there's still room to improve it, to mitigate the impact. You know, the design. Of course, it's a bigger house. We understand, but it's designed, you know, under the compliance. It's still complying to the zoning, the basic info, you know, the FAR, the setback, the height. But as far as the guidelines and design review, I believe they still need to improve. Yeah, that's just you know, that's my position.
Okay, so then
well, Michael, based on those, which ones, you know, the 6 items we talked about, what do you see?
You know, okay, so let's go back to the 6 items. You know, the 6 items are not, you know, of course, each of them, it's only a small area, it's a smaller item, but they all add up to the, you know, to the the overall picture. So the size of the second floor deck, even though they reduce the usable, but the deck's still there. I mean, of course, I understand you mentioned about their function, about the sunshade on the solar shading on the west side, the wall plate, everything adds up. Every minor item adds up. Yeah.
So Michael,
Mm-hmm.
so you were no. I went through the 6 items that we had asked them to work on, some of which they did, some of which they didn't. If we did more on these 6 items, would that move you to a yes, or are you still at a perspective of it just doesn't meet the guidelines and you're at a no? That's where I'm trying to figure this out.
If they did all the 6 items, I think my tendency, I mean, of course, I need to see it. I cannot guarantee, but my tendency is to approve it if they did all 6.
Okay. All right. So I feel pretty much the same way that you do. So David's okay the way it is, but we all know we could improve, right? So I don't think
sorry, Chair. Yeah. I feel that they did not try harder. They should try harder to be. I mean, we all know how the neighbor feel. I think the basic is like we don't find any substantial. I mean, the changes are very subtle. I think that's the problem, and a lot of neighbors found that.
Well said.
Yeah.
Okay. Well said. I agree with you, and that was when I opened the plans and looked at them. That was my first impression, right? Which is like, really, what changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing here. So. Which is why I was in a no, to be honest with you. As I said, I was in that category of no, and then I listened to everyone tonight, and I was kind of more, they pushed me more towards the middle, but I would like to go back with these 6 points and give the architect another opportunity to address them. And then, again, I can't promise that I would be a yes, but I think I would be much more likely to be a yes the way you would as well. David's already there. Sam, I don't think, if we made these changes, I don't think we're going to move him on this one, but that's okay, That's what I think.
Well,
so
given
go ahead.
If
and
the changes,
given that, maybe someone wants to make a motion. Yes, please go ahead.
So I'm not going to make a motion, but I'm saying that if one of the 6 were to make this is what I initially said, make an accommodation to the existing style in the new design, and I mentioned the roof pitch and I mentioned the windows, and that was ignored. So if that's one of the 6, and Gene
they're in there, both
sorry?
Yeah, they're both in there, Sam.
Okay.
So then maybe, yeah, okay, that's good. I mean, it would be great if we could all come around with a yes. So,
well,
I think this has been
my yes.
I think this has been it. Huh?
My yes would be a major change, and I'm not sure.
No, I don't think that will happen, but maybe.
Well, I know that, but that's what I'm saying. My yes would be a major change in the look of the project. Now, again, I've said before, I don't know what Gene is thinking or what the owner is thinking, but it would have to be something substantial for me to be in favor.
Understood. Okay. All right. Understood. So given the discussion, which I think helped, and I think Michael probably summarized it the best, which is when we looked at what came in this iteration. And again, I'll repeat that we've only had, before tonight, really one look at this. We haven't participated in the last 2 years. I think we should remember our charter is to try to make this as good as we can. I think this is actually worth another trip personally back to the architect with the 6 points that we outlined previously to see if they can do better. And as Michael said, to make more substantial effort on each one of the 6 points and give them that as the assignment. And if they can't come back with something that really shows a substantial change, I think we're probably going to end up with a no here. That's where it's going to be.
Okay.
That's my summation of this. And with that, would David or Michael want to attempt a motion on this to try to make another cycle through the architect?
Chair Bishop, before we get to a motion, if I may, can I get some clarification on the third bullet point regarding the garage? Because we've been told that that would require a variance, which is a separate approval. If you
Well,
send,
there's two.
Sorry, go ahead.
Two things. A variance isn't necessarily required. This is what I tried to say at the beginning of the meeting, that I felt it got treated as a binary, that no, we can't do that because if we change 49% of it, then, you know, we wouldn't be able to do it because it's in a non-conforming state. A variance solves that. I'm not sure that you even need to do that. I believe there's ways to actually improve the existing garage to make it fit the design and size of the house without necessarily changing more than 49% of it. But I haven't tried to do a set of drawings for it, so it's nothing that I've worked on. Or a variance could be created, and then it could be, I think what we asked was to raise the plate height a foot on that from memory, and then it would be more compatible size to the house, that it would look like they were designed at the same time rather than in two different time periods. But it could be done a couple of different ways, and I would leave that to the architect, as Michael said, rather than try to do the design here. I don't think that's our job.
Okay.
But we can give them alternatives as to how that could be accomplished.
Okay, so the
clarification. Well, I was going to say, Chair Bishop, could we maybe speak to the architect to see if these are items that they'd even attempt to do?
I'm not sure we want to do that, but I've thought about that, but I didn't want to open that can of worms, actually, to be honest with you. I was thinking, quite honestly, if we could ask them to more substantially, if the motion could be, we gave you a task list in August. We felt you addressed some things, you know, in a cursory way. Nothing was done fully. It's not enough to persuade this group to say yes tonight, clearly. That's kind of where we are. You know, please try to do what we asked you to do on August 4th and see what they come back with.
Well,
without necessarily dragging him into anything here, quite honestly. I don't think that's a good use of our time tonight.
And this is where I'm asking for clarification on the third bullet point. What I hear you saying is that last time the specific direction was increase the plate height by 1 foot.
That's correct.
What I hear you say is that your direction on all of the bullets is the same, except that one you would be open to other solutions for making it more compatible. Do I understand that correctly, or do I misunderstand?
Well, there's two things they could, well, three things they could do probably. One, they could do what we told them, what we asked them to do, which we didn't understand when we asked them to do that it would take they could apply for variance. And this is the group that actually would approve that from what I know. Yes. Or they could say, well, there's a number of ways we could, rather than just do nothing, which is what they did. There are other ways without modifying the building greater than 49% to actually make changes to it that it would fit the new structure better. I leave that to the architect. He could do it either way. I'd be open to either proposal, but we got nothing back, quite honestly, other than we can't do that, which isn't the right answer.
So, and I'm sorry for being pedantic, but motions have to be clear. So if the motion does turn out to be to send it back to address those 6 points, it's with the understanding that there may be other ways to address number 3 without specifically raising the plate height 1 foot.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for humoring my need for clarity.
No, I think that's what lawyers do. Thank you for working with us. It's great to have you on our team. So back to the commission.
Well, question.
Michael, yes.
If we don't come up with a resolution, is a resolution that it goes to council?
I think we're smart enough to try this one more time. I think the architect is too. That's the ultimate thing. I'll give it one more round. Like I said, we've only seen this in August. We've worked on other projects over a greater, I know it's been a couple years for the owners, but it hasn't been for this commission. It's a pretty smart group. I think we should try. We try to work with the architect, see if we can solve it ourselves. If we can't, then we push it to the commission. We push it to the council.
Okay, so chair.
Let's see if they can do our list. I think that's what we should. They didn't do what we asked them to do. When I opened, personally, I think Michael said the same thing. When he opened the plans, it was like, what? That's where I was, and it was like I felt Sam said we weren't well listened to. I agree. So let's see if they listen to us the second time. If they don't, then I guess yes, that we would do that, David.
Could we get a little bit more clarity on the, I mean, we have one or two specifics. Number 2, reduce wall plate by 6 to 12 inches. 3,
right,
1 foot. The other is reduce roof overhang. They did that, but it's not enough. Reduce size of tall windows. They took some out. I think maybe we need to have a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that could be, I agree with you. That could be the
description,
we
that
we could add,
reduce this, they reduce the size of the deck as far as people using it by 45%, by actual square footage of the covering of the patio below. It's basically the same square footage. So are we saying we don't want you to have a cover over that? Or are we saying reduce it to 4 feet and have a trellis? What specifically are we?
I think, yeah. So let's talk about that one. I think that's a good question. What we meant, or at least what I meant, or what I thought we meant, wasn't to put a garden up there. It was to make the deck smaller, and that's not what they did. So
Correct.
They came back with, well, it doesn't. You can't walk on all of it, so it's smaller. Well, really, it's not. When you look at that side of the house, it's every bit as big as it was.
Correct, but
and I think that's one of the things from design. I think it sticks out. To me, it's too large. I think, gardens aside, it's too large. So it needs to be made smaller. That's what we asked. That's not what they did.
Okay, so let me ask this: if they reduce the size to 6 feet in depth or whatever, and then put a giant trellis up there as a patio cover. Is that going to be, because I see it as a two, and maybe I'm completely wrong on this, as a dual function. One is a patio for the upstairs occupants to go out on and enjoy, but I also see it secondarily as, because it's western exposure, it's providing coverage for the patio down below. Now,
correct.
A lot of people just have a trellis or something out there that is going to make that side of the house appear kind of bulky, or because you have a big trellis out there. So are we saying, we just want a patio cover or deck that is just for people to stand on, that's going to be smaller? Or are we okay with a larger structure that also doubles as a cover for the the first floor, cement patio or whatnot?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Because I see it as, yes, they reduce the patio from a usable standpoint of people up there milling and making noise and light and sound and all of that, but they kept it the same visual size because of coverage for the patio, and then used the garden area as sort of to split the vertical of that side of the property with, plants and that type of thing. So, I could go for making these changes or whatnot, but I think, when I talked about the first time around, I think we need to give a little bit more guidance on what exactly we are asking versus these open answer questions.
Chair Bishop. Can I?
Yes, please, Michael.
Sorry.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I believe the 6 6 items from the August 4th meeting, at least 5 of them, I mean, the goal is to reduce, the size of the deck, wall plate height, the roof overhang. The goal is to reduce the massing and the bulk. So if they convert some of the deck to a garden, I mean, the bulk and mass is still there. So
correct.
Of course, I mean, the architect usually will understand, but if we need to make it more specific, we can add more to the language this time, right?
Well, we could put 0.0 here, which is to reduce the bulk and mass. And here's 6 areas where we think it could be done, right? I think that's what we tried to say, but we didn't have 0.0 in there when we gave them this task list last time. And that's why the drawings came back looking just like they did. I think. I mean, the idea of putting a garden up there and keeping the deck the same size was a pretty creative idea, but it wasn't what we wanted, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. Yeah, it was a good try, but I don't think that's going to push this thing over the line to get it done. So, with that, I think we've had more than enough discussion on this. David's points of being more specific in these 6 areas, I think, is very valid. And I think Michael's idea of a more general statement at the beginning saying, hey, these 6 points are trying to reduce the bulk and mass appearance of this building so it fits the corner lot better. And when everybody walks by and drives by, they'll see that it fits well. I think that's what we're trying to achieve here. So what I would ask, given all of that and the discussion that we had, would someone want to try to make a motion, and we can probably try it more than once, to see if we can formulate this and give another opportunity to the architect to come back with a set of plans that we would endorse. That's where I'm trying to go here. So with that, would someone want to try to make the motion?
I'll try.
Okay.
Okay, I move that DRC is to continue item SC 190016 for 41 Marvin Avenue by following the updated 6 items from originally from August 4th meeting. Do you want me to list each one?
I think so. If you could do that.
Okay.
Guido's probably taking notes. Yes, please.
Yes. The overall intent is to reduce the overall bulk and mass of the house to better show compliance with the neighborhood. And specifically, number 1, reduce the size of the second floor deck by making the deck no more than 4 feet in depth. Reduce the wall plate height by 6 to 12 inches. Number 3, reduce the visual impact of the garage by raising the height by 1 foot. And number 4, reduce the roof overhang. Number 5, reduce the size of the tall second floor windows. And last one, make the roof pitches better integrated into the, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. There was some talk about also directing staff to identify other ways to potentially meet this objective. Did you want that part of your motion or no?
Directs identify.
This
yes, let's make part of the motion. I mean, that's
okay.
I will make it that part of the motion.
And then in terms of the roof overhang, there was also talk about trying to make it compatible. Did you want that in your motion or no?
I will add that too.
Okay. Just trying to make sure we're being precise here. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. Is there a second to Michael's motion? Sam, would you second the motion or no?
No, I would not.
Okay.
I
David,
would,
would you
if
second?
there were some changes in the wording.
Okay, well, let's try to work those in, please.
So,
So
can I make a
the
Would
suggestion?
you like to amend it?
So there are two words that talk legislative intent to reduce the overall bulk and mass to better show compliance with the neighborhood. That's assuming it's out of compliance. I don't agree that it's out of compliance. It's a diverse character neighborhood. And I don't think, you know, to show, to fit in better with the neighborhood or something.
Compatible?
Like that.
Can we use compatible?
Compatible is fine. And on the for the overhang compatibility with the neighborhood, that's to me too broad. I mean, the roof overhang, if you say compatible with the neighborhood, again, being a diverse character neighborhood, it doesn't need to be fully compatible with every single house there. And I'm getting nitpicky, you know, to have it sort of fit in better with the neighborhood or whatnot. But I think the design, as in my opinion, the design as it has been presented is compatible with the definition of what the neighborhood is, a diverse character neighborhood. You know, to maybe make it fit in better or whatever. And I know these are you know, minor terms, but I don't think it's out of compatibility with the neighborhood as it exists, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
So, Guido, did you capture that?
I feel like I did, Chair Bishop. If I didn't, please correct me.
Okay, so David, if we've got that captured, would you want to second Michael's motion?
Yeah. Second.
Okay, thank you.
With the amended
All right,
terms.
so with the amended terms. Guido, do you want to read it back to us?
Sure.
Please.
So the motion was for the design review 19-0016 to further refine the design based on the August 4th, 2021 meeting with Commissioner Ma and Commissioner Blockus, the first and the second on the motion. The overall intent of the DRC is to reduce the bulk and mass of the house to be compatible with the neighborhood, to reduce the size of the second floor deck. Let me mute Chair Ma. To reduce the size of the second floor deck by making said deck no more than 4 feet in depth, to reduce the wall plate heights by 6 to 12 inches, to reduce the visual impact of the garage by raising the height by 1 foot, and to direct staff to identify further ways to achieve this objective, to reduce the roof overhang to be compatible with the neighborhood, to reduce the size of the second floor windows, and to make the roof pitches better integrate with the neighborhood.
Well done. Thank you, Guido.
And if I could just raise one point of order. So we had a motion, we had somebody change the motion and then second it, but that really wasn't the maker's motion. So either this is Commissioner Blockus's motion and we need a second, or Commissioner Blockus is seconding the motion and Commissioner Ma is accepting these as friendly amendments.
Well, could I also get a clarification on item 1, how we are with the 4 feet in depth, given it's a front, it doesn't have a privacy impact with the adjoining neighbors. So it is more of a, I think that might be, in my mind, too restrictive. But
Would you go for 6? Would you go for 6 feet? Then it's more usable.
Well, yeah, I mean,
we've done that before, but I agree it's not in the backyard, but I don't want it to look like Motel 6 either.
No,
the side of the
exactly. You
building.
don't, you know, for reference, I was the one who brought the deck up and said, you know, it's not going to be a big party deck, but I think 4 feet, given where it is restrictive given, you know, the uniqueness of this particular property and lot and house situation and all of that. I think we, you know, there's part of it is depth, but also length, because it runs, you know, what is it, 18 or 20 feet or whatever. I think in my mind, I envision, you know, maybe having a table out there where they could sit, you know, so maybe 6 to 8 feet at its maximum depth. And maybe, you know, potentially make it a little bit shorter. I don't know, but that's why I, you know, maybe leave that open up to the owner and the architect to come up with something that they know, you know, maybe 4 to 8 feet in depth, and let them explain why they're doing it. You know, I think 4 feet in my mind is too restrictive given that particular lot and given where the deck will be and given privacy concerns and all of that.
The design guidelines actually call out 4 feet in depth. So
Yeah,
correct.
That's typical for us is 4. I mean, but given the nature of this, I think 8 is too much personally. I would go
Could be,
up
yeah.
to a maximum of 6.
You know, 6 would be better in my mind than 4.
So back to our city attorney, we just needed to clarify what we were calling the motion, or were we doing a friendly amendment, which seemed to be the easiest way to do this. But could you please repeat that, and then we could just make a decision on how we do the motion and the amendment, please?
Sure. So if this is acceptable to you, Commissioner Ma, you could say that this is your motion, and Commissioner Blockish, you can confirm that you're seconding this motion. That's one way to do it. It's just that this was Commissioner Ma's motion and we've changed it. So we need to confirm that this is still his motion, or else it's somebody else's motion now.
I'll do it. So I accept Commissioner Block's amendments to the motion.
Okay, and then we can assume it's been second.
And then I second Commissioner Ma's motion.
Okay, thank you both. So now we'll take a roll call on this.
Chair
Yes.
Bishop, just we're in a virtual world. Mr. Sakai was asking about the wall plate height. Do you want to indulge allowing him to ask some clarifying questions, or you want the motion just to stand? That's your call. As the chair.
I think we'll stand with it, and it's something you can clarify with him in a discussion.
Okay.
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 Hold on, sorry. I think we still have no more than 4 feet with the maximum on the deck. Is it still a little bit?
No more than 6. No more
4
than 6
to
feet.
6 feet.
6 feet. No, maximum 6 feet.
Yeah. So we need to.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's do the roll. So we have a motion. We have a second. The city attorney has agreed that we've done that fairly. So we'll take a roll for the vote on this, please. So Sam?
No.
David?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
And Frank is a yes. So motion passes 3-1. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your patience on this. That was a drawn-out discussion, but I think we came to the right conclusion. Actually, it's a little more work for the architect and for the homeowner. But again, I'll repeat one more time. We've only seen this. This commission's only seen this for a short amount of time. We're citizens like everyone here. We're doing our best to try to make this right for the owner and to make it right for the neighborhood, and to do everything in compliance with the city and having the city attorney here. So I think we've done a think we've done a fine job tonight. I want to thank everybody for helping us get that done. And I'm going to pull the agenda back up on my MacBook here. Everything's timed out on me, so hold on. Okay, so that concludes the discussion portion of our meeting. Next section is commissioners' reports and comments. Does anyone have a report or a comment to share? And Jude, if you're still there, you can come back into the meeting. Jude, are you there?
Oh, I'm here. I've been here.
I wanted to welcome you back. Thank you for rejoining us. Commissioners' reports, comments. Does anyone have something to offer tonight?
Yeah, I have a question for future discussion. How DRC is going to be dealing with and the city dealing with AB 910 and all of that.
Yeah.
The changes in lots and usage and whatnot.
Yeah, Eric.
That's good. That's a good question.
Yeah, Eric's from the city attorney's office. We're actually having training on that in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, there will be fundamental changes to how we do business for single family.
Correct.
Design review. And Eric, I believe, is working on a memo, which we will share with the DRC, explaining kind of what your role will be moving. But I don't want to put words in Eric's mouth. If you want to elaborate, Eric.
Yeah, no, there will be a memo. I'd love to go in detail and explain SB9, but it's not on the agenda, so I can't.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Well,
after
we'll look forward to that.
Yeah, after January 1st, things change quite a bit, and I'll also be starting the process of organizing some community meetings so we can explain the bill to residents, because we've gotten actually quite a few inquiries in the last month or so. So I'm trying to get ahead of the issue and have some community meetings to explain it to residents. So.
And Guido, just in the chat, the architect needs more clarity on point 2, so you might, or have the architect contact you for.
Yeah, I saw that. That's why I brought it up. So. Yeah.
Any other commissioners' reports or comments? Hearing none.
Guido, this is
Moving on.
Vice Mayor Enander.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, this is Vice Mayor Enander. And I wanted to know, Guido, are you going to say anything at this point to the commission about the council direction on having design reviews start to think about objective standards that might be considered by council in light of the changes that are upcoming with the new law?
We can certainly talk about, unfortunately, we didn't agendize that for this meeting, but yeah, we're certainly going to be.
Yeah, I thought that we were going to agendize that. I was just kind of surprised. So maybe as a reporting thing, we can ask people to start thinking about that. Do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I'm actually meeting with the city attorney next week to talk about that. And then we're going to be reporting out to the DRC kind of next steps, but it's not on the agenda for tonight. So.
Well, then I will just report for the city council that, recognizing that changes are going to be upcoming, that council will be asking the commissions that are directly involved, especially design review and planning, for some ideas on things that we could make as part of our objective standards that would then still conform to new law changes. And I realize you're at a disadvantage because you don't know what all those new law changes are. But just think about objective standards that would apply in the kind of work you guys are doing.
Understood, understood.
Can I ask a question? And I think I've asked this to somebody else recently, but has there been an official letter that the city of Los Altos has sent to the state regarding this matter? And can the commission get a copy of that letter in advance of us commenting on whatever the city attorney is going to share with us going forward?
I'm not aware of any communications between the city and the state. Guido, are you?
I thought the council took some policy positions. Vice Mayor, is that incorrect? That was always at
Well, we took positions on the legislation before it was adopted, but that would not be relevant anymore.
Okay.
I thought I read that Palo Alto, Los Altos, and a few other local jurisdictions had collectively gotten together and try to formulate something in opposition to SB 9 and 10. But I could be wrong. I can't believe everything in the paper.
No, what you may be referring to is that there has been, and this is a matter of public record, a initiative constitutional amendment being proposed and has been submitted to the Attorney General for a title and summary prior to collecting signatures to place it on a ballot that would make land use and zoning, and I'm speaking very generally, land use and zoning a matter of local government and not state decisions.
Okay.
Question, has there been anything in regards to live commission meetings?
Yeah, that's actually on the agenda for today. So I put that on there so I could brief the commission. But I think that's item number 4, and I didn't want to jump ship, so I defer to the chair if we want to go to item number 3, and then we can go to 4.
Let's do item number 3 first.
Okay. So November 2nd is the annual check-in with the council. So I'll be reaching out to the chair and vice chair, and we'll have a quick meeting, and we'll just kind of go through some of the slides that we'll present in terms of kind of number of projects that the DRC has reviewed. You and the rest of the commission helped tremendously by updating our outreach policy this last 6 to 9 months, talking about that. So yeah, I'll be reaching out to the chair and vice chair to have a meeting to discuss. So those were the big kind of topics I was going to highlight. If there's other ones you think we should highlight, please let me know.
So Guido, I will be unable to attend that meeting. I'm having surgery on that day.
Okay.
And will be out.
Okay. All right, well, if there's other stuff that comes up between now and, I mean, that staff report would have to go out 8 days before, a week before. So if you have thoughts of what you want to share with the council, please let me know. And for the last item, item number 4, so the council voted to continue the virtual meetings. And I guess every 30 days, they have to make that proclamation to continue doing virtual. And I believe they're taking it up on October 12th to whatever the council decides on that. And that we would, as staff, be given kind of a heads up beforehand before we go back to in-person meetings. So yeah, that's what I have as of now.
Okay, then thank you, Guido. Anything else, or can we adjourn for the evening?
Yeah, this is Sam. And so I wanted to comment that at least I was very appreciative that we were able to get hard copies this time. And I hope that we will be able to do that in the future.
Yes, that was one of the directions of the DRC. So I did ask the applicant, and Yvonne is our really good admin person who put that all together. So kudos to Yvonne.
So Guido, the question is that should we return this back to PD or back to planning?
Well, I don't really need them at this point. I mean, I guess put them in the recycling bin for now.
But okay, but what about the
binder?
The binder, yeah.
Or I guess because it's coming back, maybe. Oh, because you have the binder. Oh yeah. Yeah. I guess you would have to bring it back to PD. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Is that what you guys used to do in the past?
Well, yeah, but is that, well,
we had live meetings.
So we just give the binder back to you at the live meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you'd have to drop it off at PD again, or you could drop it off at the permit center at City Hall, whatever works for the commission.
Okay, but you do want it back.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure Yvonne would love to have them back.
Yeah.
I bet she does. Yeah. Okay. So, given that,
very fortunate.
Anything else? Given
Uh,
that, is there anything else for this evening?
I do appreciate Vice Mayor and Andrew bringing it up. Yeah, a lot of changes coming to the DRC. Thank you, Vice Mayor, for bringing that up. And yeah, we will have trainings, and Eric will be in on those trainings with the commission. And
Rito, are you going to mention the implicit bias training?
I did forward that on to the DRC. I did.
Okay. Yeah, just want to make sure that gets covered.
Yeah, I did forward that on to them.
We encourage people to attend. It's not a mandatory thing, but we encourage people to attend.
Well, I guess our question is, I can't make that date of that workshop, but is that online, and can we get a link or a PDF or something?
I think the intention is to do exactly that, Mr. Kirk, is to have the video available online afterwards for those who can't attend live. Yes.
But I understand that that's going to be more of a question and answer, or is it going to be a presentation?
Both.
Well, okay, go ahead. When I
so anybody who doesn't show up won't be able to ask questions, but you'll be able to listen to the presentation and listen to the answers to the questions that others posed.
Okay, so that it is a question and answer.
Yeah, when we took it as staff, he was a really good speaker. He spoke, and then he had people break up into small groups, and people asked questions, gave feedback. So it wasn't just a hour-and-a-half lecture. He did a good job of kind of making it interactive. So
okay,
yeah, that's it on my end.
Okay.
Thanks,
Then
Guido.
all right. I'll call the meeting adjourned at 10:34.
Sounds good.
Thanks,
Might
everyone.
be a record.
Great.
All right.
Thank you, Chair Bishop.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
job.
Good night.
Sometime we'd like to see you also.
Thank you, everyone.
Soon
we
enough.
hear your voice, but we don't see you.
Yes, soon enough.